Hello and welcome to episode 60 of the ABC podcast. My name is Alex and I am joined by Brandon Bullet Punch Park, and we have Robyn and Kenzie joining us once again.
Hi!
Greetings, Earthlings.
So, a couple of things here. Last week, when we got into our trailer segment of the show, I said that we were going to talk about E3 this week, but I'm a liar. Because we have a movie discussion in store this week, and tons of trailers, plus two guests who don't really care about video games, plus Lord of the Rings talk, which is going to go very lengthy, I'm quite sure. Probably wouldn't have made for a recipe of a very good episode. So we're going to save all that for next week, so that's unfortunate. But we make up for it by having Kenzie's expertise in the Lord of the Rings, and Robyn's here because she has major FOMO.
He invited me. I'm just putting that out there.
I almost never know when you're invited.
I was actually invited. He said,
no, I believe it. I believe it. I just don't know whenever you're invited. I think of all the times you've been on this podcast, I've known like 3 times.
I've only been on the podcast like 4 times.
That's definitely.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't feel like that many times.
I would say like 10.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this has been going on for a long time. To me, it still feels like it's just started, like yesterday.
No.
It does take over everything.
No.
Anyway, I don't have anything to report about my week, so I will cede my time to anyone else who wants to talk about how great things are or how miserable things may be.
Or just how about different. Like, Robyn and I, up until this past Tuesday, were roommates. And now we are not. It's the end of an era.
It is. Sad.
So we're still processing living with our mothers.
It's a lot.
Because both of us are living with our mothers.
I love you, Mom, because I feel like sometimes you listen to this.
You're great, Miss Grant. But, it's different living with your mom than with your friends.
True.
That's all I have to report.
What? Brandon has moved roommates 5 million times.
Huh?
Said Brandon has changed roommates and rooms 5 million times this summer.
Oh, I haven't.
I feel like you've moved rooms a lot.
No.
Really?
I've moved things in rooms, I just haven't moved my own room.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought you lived
So that's why all my stuff is still in bags and everything right here.
It's okay.
I moved in, and you know what I did right after I moved in? I slept on my mattress without any, sheets or anything.
The horror.
That's gross.
Well,
I was so tired.
well, it is gross here because they're school mattresses.
that's true.
It's not his, home mattress. That would be a different story.
So,
Sorry, Brandon.
That reminds me
I
of
wiped
that.
it down right before I did, but still, you're right.
You can always go up to the 3rd floor study rooms and sleep on those couches. I've done that before.
Those are probably so much less germy.
I've done it before. So.
Or you could be like Rory Gilmore and just get your own mattress and throw that one away and hide it.
I'm not gonna buy my own mattress. Are you crazy?
Where Luke has to find somewhere to put it. They're like, you can't take that. Good times.
But aside from that, I'm so tired. You have no idea. I can't express in words how tired I am right now on this show.
My brain's tired. My body's not tired.
I have the opposite. Brain's awake. I'm here. Body's like, why?
I'm just here.
Exist.
Yeah.
Oh, I realized after the last podcast that I was in that I laughed a lot. Is that a problem? Because I was listening to it, I was like, why do I laugh so much?
No, it's not. When we did it with Armando, a good chunk of the time went to laughing.
Okay, but it's different because Armando has a really deep laugh because he has a very deep voice. He is bass, and I'm soprano. So my laughter's a little bit
I think it's fun.
pitched.
I think it's fun.
Okay. I was like, wow, I didn't realize I laughed.
You're also really quiet
when I talk. So yeah, but I was pretty far away from the mic last time because we were at a big table.
Yeah. I hate those episodes. It's the worst sound quality except for episode 2 out of all of our episodes.
Well, actually, no.
That was so long
last
ago.
time when we did it, when we reviewed Rogue One
It's the only one I have
in that apartment in the same setup, it was really good.
Really? I didn't think it sounded
It was good. It was better than the last one.
Well, yeah. I don't know. Anywho. So that's a lot of inside baseball. So let's move on to our ABC's of Geekdom segment. So I neglected to ask either of our guests if they wanted to choose. And I also neglected to pick something myself, so I just randomly picked something off the top of my head.
You didn't even ask? What's the letter?
It's the letter T. It's too late. I already picked.
Okay,
so,
fine.
We're going to talk about Tigger the Tiger.
Nice.
Okay.
Because I figured we could all talk about that. My first instinct was Tristan Taylor from Yu-Gi-Oh, but I figured that would just be...
What about
I haven't watched Yu-Gi-Oh since I was
Tristan from American Horror Story?
How about not? Because some of us have never seen American Horror Story.
I'm just saying.
So, Tigger. I don't know about you guys, but Tigger was my favorite character on Winnie the Pooh.
He's definitely mine too. I don't know if you remember, but when we were in elementary school, there was a movie about Tigger that came out.
Yeah.
I remember going to see it in the theater and crying. It was beautiful.
I don't know if I cried, but I definitely saw the
I
movie.
was a sensitive child.
Brandon, you have a favorite Winnie the Pooh character?
Probably Piglet.
I can see that.
I like them a lot.
I don't know. I relate with Eeyore a lot.
That makes so much sense.
Surprise, surprise.
That makes so much sense.
You know, I remember when I found out he was voiced by Peter Cullen, like, I had a big, like revelation at that point.
So, yeah, Tigger is a tiger, and his most notable trait is his springy tail. He uses it as a pogo stick, essentially, so he's constantly bouncing around. He's very energetic.
Are those a thing anymore?
Pogo sticks?
Pogo sticks? Like, do people still use it?
Saw one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably when I was in elementary school.
They're very practical.
No, they're really not. I think
Like-
I've only ever tried one like once or twice.
The last
Very
time
difficult.
I've ever heard a story or an account about a pogo stick from anybody was my brother. He was in 6th or 7th grade. And he talked about, like, he would sometimes walk to McDonald's from school. And he said he had a friend who, one day he brought a pogo stick with him to
Oh
school.
my gosh.
So when they were walking, he pulled out his pogo stick from his backpack and he, like, pogo stick all the way to McDonald's.
That sounds like
exhausting.
so much work.
I mean, it's like,
That's a good
it's a
legwork
it's a
on
middle
that.
school person. They still have, like, a lot of energy left.
I don't think I ever had that
11 or
energy.
12-year-old.
Yeah.
And then they went to McDonald's.
He bounced back to school with the McDonald's.
Wow, I have so many questions.
I remember when my freshman year in college, I didn't have a car, and so I just had a bike. And I tried to go to Whataburger and get food and bring it back here so I could, like, watch TV while I eat, because that's the kind of person that I am. So I got my so I had a little, what do you call it, string bag?
Strings.
I know what you're talking about.
Cinch sack, that's what they're called. So, because they gave us one at freshman symposium. So I had that one. So I rode there, got my food. I went to the drive-thru on my
That must have been
bike.
awesome.
So I put the bag in my bag, but then I had my shake. I think it was no, actually it might have been a root beer.
That's dangerous, man.
Yeah, so I was
That's
like, I
also gross.
couldn't hold it while I was writing, and there was little pockets on the side, so I tried that, and it got everywhere. It was bad idea. Yeah. But anyway.
Tigger.
Yeah, Tigger. Pogo stick. Very energetic. Also, like, never really takes anything seriously. I mean, like, a lot of the characters in Winnie the Pooh don't, with the notable exception of Rabbit, probably. I mean, Kanga, I guess, because she's a mom.
Yeah.
Oh, and Owl. He's usually pretty serious. But everybody else is kind of just, like, doing their own thing. But Tigger, I think especially, is just very whimsical, come what may kind of character. So, yeah.
He is exceptionally silly. I think, though, that was why they made the Tigger movie.
Yeah.
Because if I remember, it was all about where he came from, because he didn't know his family.
Mm-hmm.
And so he, like, discovered his family and where he came from and kind of why he was the way he was. He had kind of this tragic background. But then you realize, wow, what a good guy that Tigger.
Yeah, that also ties into a correction later on in the podcast. So,
Of course it would.
Always.
Of course
keep
it
that in
would.
mind. So, I don't know what else to say about Tigger, so we can just kind of pontificate on Winnie the Pooh.
What? I've never thought I would hear that word be associated with Winnie the Pooh.
Why not?
I really liked Winnie the Pooh back in the day.
It's charming.
And then I had this, I don't know about you, but, like, when I was in, like, I don't know, 5th grade, I had this period of time where I completely rebelled against all those younger shows that I watched when I was a kid, like Barney and Mr. Rogers, and never Sesame Street for some reason. I always was enamored with Sesame Street, but everything else I was like, this is so
Kids
dumb.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then now I can remember and appreciate those shows.
See, I never got that. Partly also because when I moved apartments, I didn't have cable, so PBS was only one of the few things I had.
This is so great, though.
And sometimes when I would go to a doctor's appointment, whether it be far downtown or just really early in the morning, they would have PBS playing, and you would have like those things going on. And I don't know, I never had any resentment against it. I guess probably still watch it now. I could probably actually sit through like 5 episodes of Between the Lions and genuinely enjoy my time.
I always liked Cyber Chase because
Me
it
too.
was like, even though it was
Such a
even
good,
though it was a cartoon,
such
it
a
never
good
felt
show.
like childish. Like they felt more.
Because they had
Grown
more
up.
narrative
Yeah.
than a lot of the other shows.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, I guess I just always associated math with like being a grown up. So
Yeah.
It's like one of
More
the few times I can actually say I enjoyed math.
Yeah, that's true.
And Zaboomafoo. I love Zaboomafoo
Oh, yeah.
Zaboomafoo
so
was the
much.
best. I loved Zaboomafoo. All the animals. So great. It had a great theme song, too.
Yeah.
It's fun.
But back to Winnie the Pooh.
My mom has a bunch of Winnie the Pooh merchandise. She has like 4 or 5 blankets that she has lying around the house.
That is a lot.
Little like stuffed animal things that
Is
she
she
bought
a
from McDonald's. Yeah, she likes little cute little things, which is weird because she's a lot like me. Like you don't associate cute and cuddly with her. So
My sister had a Winnie the Pooh room in our first house.
It's interesting now that I think about it, because I enjoyed the show. I didn't watch it a lot, but I did watch some of it. But that Winnie the Pooh is never one of those childhood books that my mom ever bought for me, which now that I think about it is kind of strange. I don't know if she just wasn't a huge Winnie the Pooh person. But I feel like that's a book a lot of children read.
Yeah.
That was never one I actually read as a child. I don't remember having a Winnie the Pooh book.
Yeah, I feel like I did. Just because like that art style is so distinct that it like sticks out in my memory a lot, but I can't remember like ever holding the book or like any of the story or anything. So maybe it's just from like seeing it, in other places. Yeah, but there's like a lot of weird stuff in Winnie the Pooh too. Like the heffalumps, like when you really think about them, are like really terrifying. Maybe that's just me, but like that one, like where they come up with like the song and everything, and it's like all like nightmarish and everything.
I remember.
Like,
It's freaky.
yeah, pretty disturbing. Kind of like that. I had a comparison, or it's like on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't.
Like a show comparison?
Yeah.
Like the giant finger people and Spy Kids. That was scary.
They were thumbs, not
Thumb.
fingers, but no. Kind of like in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when they go in the tunnel and it's all like spinning.
Trippy.
Yeah.
Kind of like,
Futurama did better.
well, I was thinking about the scene in Dumbo where Dumbo gets drunk and everything is like really strange and trippy and scary. I don't know. That's kind of what makes me think of it.
If I've ever seen Dumbo, it was like once when I was really young, so I don't remember it.
It's a very weird and trippy and disturbing scene.
I had a nightmare about Pinocchio once. Because they made a live action version of Pinocchio like in the early 2000s, and I never watched it. Like I caught the beginning of it like on TV one day, and I don't know what happened, but something
It was the strings, wasn't it? It was the strings.
No,
Oh my
I don't
gosh.
think so. No, but something in it really didn't sit well with me, and that night I had like this really disturbing nightmare. Yeah, I think it actually has something to do with strings.
I told you it was about the strings.
It always comes back to the strings.
Yeah, I don't know. I just always remember that. It's so weird.
Well, because there's that scene where Pinocchio gets drunk. I know that's in the animated version.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the live action.
Again, I've seen
But that's
it, like,
also,
once.
when you think about it, it's very disturbing. He's supposed to be a little boy, and he goes out to a bar and gets drunk.
Well, I mean...
And then he gets turned into a donkey.
Oh, yeah.
It's very trippy. Weird
It's
stuff,
like,
man. Weird stuff.
To go back to our discussion about books from last week, There's this book, I don't know what it's called. It's about this little kid who's a donkey who could make things. He found this magic rock that could he could make other things turn into other things. And then he was trying to hide from his parents, so he turned himself into a rock to like blend in with the like landscape.
Oh my gosh, I know this story.
But then he like lost the rock.
I know the story. Oh my god.
And so he was stuck in this rock. Like he was conscious and everything. Like he could see everything and like feel and know what was happening around him. But like he couldn't, because he didn't have hands. He couldn't hold the rock to change himself back. But then I'll spoil the book. His parents are like searching everywhere for him. They're really freaked out, and I think I want to say it was like days or weeks later they finally like found it. So they come upon this rock where the donkey kid is hiding, and the mom picks up the rock. She says, "Oh, I wish that our son was here." And he turns back into himself and he says, "Oh, I've been here all along."
Yeah, because they decided to have a break that day, so
story.
they used the rock because he's the rock. So
Right.
they're gonna have a picnic, so they put the stuff on him, and then so when they put the rock on him, he turns back to the rock.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I remember like, what about the food?
That's like
First,
the most
that's your
random thing
concern.
I've ever heard. But yeah, Winnie the Pooh. That's
Classic.
it is a classic. When he gets stuck in the thing and they're trying to get him out, and all he cares about is eating his honey, and there's Carrot and the rabbits. No, Rabbit and the carrots. And that's all I got. I don't know where I was going with this.
Was Christopher Johnson the only one like?
Christopher Robin.
I mean, Christopher Johnson. Was he the only human like
As far as I know.
that came on the show?
Well, because I think that the whole idea was kind of his imaginary
Yeah, kinda
friends
like Calvin and
in the
Hobbes.
forest. Yeah, like he goes and walks in the forest and, comes across these characters.
Yeah, except like he's not always there. Like
No.
they exist even when he's
Yeah,
not there.
the adventures are about them, but I think in the schema of the world,
Right.
they're kind of his imaginary friends. As far as I know.
Somebody should write a scholarly paper.
About
Don't look at
Kenzie. Oh.
I do not vote. I never read Winnie the Pooh as a child. I don't think I have the right insight. Anyway,
So
there you
yeah,
have it.
Tigger. He's pretty cool. Like I said, it was very a last minute pick. Yeah, so my bad.
I heard about that in the last week.
What?
He talked about you.
Why'd you talk about me?
Don't worry about
Tell
it.
me what do you say?
You just listen to it.
What do you
and
say?
know.
It's true.
About me yawning?
Anyway, okay. Last call for Tigger talk.
What do you want to say from
I
this?
don't know. I just feel like that was really short.
That's okay.
No, I mean the one idea about Gene Belcher was pretty short.
That's true.
No,
I wasn't
not
there
every
for that?
week has to
Yeah,
be
you were.
3
Yeah.
hours
Really?
long.
Yeah,
Podcast.
you talked about Linda the whole
See how
time.
much you care about this?
Maybe was that the last one I was on?
No,
No,
The
you were
last
on the
one
one.
with me.
Yeah,
A couple
we
weeks
talked about
ago.
Memento.
you kept drinking wine the whole time.
Shh. The listeners don't need to know that.
I mean, they listened to Alex and me drink on this podcast.
That's true. That's true.
Well, but that was kind of an extraordinary adventure, wasn't it?
Okay, well, let's do some corrections. So our first correction actually comes from 2 weeks ago when Armando was here. I don't know why. I just forgot to write this down to look up for later, and then I don't even know what I was watching something that just like triggered this memory of like, oh, Armando asked this question, and I forgot to look it up. So anyway, correction is in the television program Arrow, there's a character who goes by the codename Black Canary. That actress's name is Caity Lotz. It's spelled kind of weird. It's Caitylottz. So, yeah. Now, of course, she has moved from Arrow.
Don't.
It's not a spoiler. This was like several seasons ago.
Okay, I'm sorry.
She moved from Arrow to DC's Legends of Tomorrow
I haven't seen that yet. That's why.
as the White Canary. Anyway, so then I'll give you a chance to talk about Smaug in a minute. But so we were talking about Smaug last week. That was an experience.
That was like the most distracted ABC of Geekdom. I went back and listened to it. That was so long. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of my favorite ones.
Thorough.
But it was very, like, it went in so many different directions.
So anyway, you mentioned the Forbes Fictional
Listing?
15.
Yeah.
So I looked into that, and they don't actually publish the list every year, but as far as I can tell, on the most recent list, Smaug was listed at number 2 with a net worth of approximately $54 billion.
Oh my god.
He actually came down from the previous time they published the list because gold prices had taken a sharp decline in value.
I mean, it makes sense.
So Scrooge McDuck actually came in at number 1 with an approximate $64.5 billion net worth. Which, and
Old duck.
yeah, I know whenever we did our fanfic fights of Scrooge versus Mr. Burns, I did research into how much, and I came up with a, like, stupidly large number, like in the quadrillions, I think it was. So I don't know where, I guess I trust Forbes with their calculations more than whoever I found that calculation from, but regardless. Anyway, so other notable people on that list, Carlisle Cullen from Twilight series.
No, actually, yeah, because...
That makes sense.
They making.
Why didn't we talk about Twilight? We could have talked about Twilight.
I do not want to talk about Twilight. That's going to get ugly.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because there's a reason that they said in the books why.
Right, well, because, I was, they have just like a little paragraph about each character, how they acquired their wealth, and basically what they said was that his is purely compound interest, because he was turned into a vampire around the 17th century, so he's been, just accruing interest on his money for, 400 years.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
And also because there's
kind of like Fry on that one episode.
Yeah.
I'm sure after that long of a time, you would also learn how to make good investments.
Yeah.
Which is funny because one of the vampires that stays with him, she can see the future. So she's able to, they actually mentioned this. They have a lot of stock in the stock market. So whenever a stock falls down, they know when to sell and everything to invest into it.
Messed up, man.
Hey, that's why they get so much money.
Living comfortably, those vampires.
I mean, come on. If you could do it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would.
There you go.
Tony Stark, that's not really a surprise. Bruce Wayne, again, not really too much of a surprise. Christian Grey from 50 Shades of Grey.
No comment.
Yeah. Tywin Lannister came up.
Yeah, because he poops gold.
That would...
Ew.
Not literally.
Yeah, not literally.
Oh, I don't know. I've never watched that show.
Followed by Mr. Burns. And then this one was probably the most surprising out of everybody was Lara Croft from Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Basically, just to sum really quickly, she inherited a large fortune from her family and then increased it considerably with all of her, tomb raiding and discovering lost treasure. So, yeah. Mr. Monopoly from Monopoly. Although they did, in this last one that they mentioned, between whenever the second most recent list and the most recent list, Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast, and apparently that affected his earnings because property damage.
Oh my gosh.
And then finally, number 15 is Jay Gatsby from Great Gatsby.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, and then Brandon mentioned that Smaug is a fire drake, not a wyvern, not a dragon, but a fire drake. I couldn't really find a lot of information on fire drakes, surprisingly. The most I really got was that they are originated from Teutonic mythology, and the Teutons are of Germanic or Celtic origin, from the Middle Ages, and that was really it. They, in mythology, they range in size, range in terms of description. Sometimes they have wings, sometimes they don't. It's kind of just like an amalgamation of fire-breathing reptilian creatures. So
there you go.
That's all I can really give you there. And then the last Smaug correction, before I let Kenzie say whatever it is she has to say on the matter, is I made a reference to Trogdor the Burninator on our last episode. That is from Homestar Runner. So I didn't say this last week actually, but the main character, Strongbad, the conceit for the whole web series is that Strongbad hosts a web series, so it's a web series about hosting a web series, and he just answers fan emails is the like how every episode starts. And in this one email, a listener or writer or whatever asks, hey, can you draw a dragon? I really want to see what your art skills are like. And he goes from there, he draws the dragon, and then there's an awesome music video about it. So, Kenzie, you told me that you had some thoughts on what we said or didn't say about Master Tolkien and Middle-earth, etc. So, please regale us with your thoughts.
Oh man, I see like the glint in her eye right now.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I mean, this is, kind of one of my things. I did get to go to Oxford and see all of the Tolkienite things, so I think you can call me groupie very definitively. I've read a biography on Tolkien. I have read all of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit multiple times, as well as the Silmarillion. Shout out to anyone who actually knows what that is. You're the real deal. So just some background. I just wanted to provide some context for the Lord of the Rings, because I thought it was hilarious that you, Alex, thought that The Hobbit was like written after the Lord of the Rings. Silly Alex.
He's a noob. It's okay.
He's a noob. So, I mean, I can understand how you would think that, because they are so well connected. Here's some info. So, when Tolkien is going about his business, being a professor at Oxford, he's grading exams, and it's really late at night, and all of a sudden, on the back of an exam, sleepily, he writes, "In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit." And he's like, well, what's a hobbit? So then he started making up stories about these hobbit folk that he would tell to his children at the breakfast table. And then from that
first breakfast or second breakfast?
So from that kind of developed this lore about the hobbits. And the thing about Tolkien is like you would be tempted to think, oh, well, that was just kind of how the whole shebang came together. But Tolkien was a philologist, so that means he studied languages. And so he actually had been making up languages and stories for years before this. And so really you could say that for Tolkien, the whole world of Middle-earth developed out of his love for languages. So he has a lot of different languages. They don't come through as strongly in the movies, but in the books, it's everywhere. He has appendices with entire descriptions of the Elfish language and the Dwarf language and all these other languages that he literally made up the entire language for these characters. He was a brilliant author, but primarily, first and foremost, he was a philologist and a lover of languages. So The Hobbit came first, written, as Brandon said, in the 1937. And then he was actually working on Lord of the Rings, which wasn't published until the early 1950s, while at least one, if not more than one of his sons was in World War II. And so he would send him chapters of the story, and he saw it. He was definitely very deeply influenced by the World Wars. It had made a very deep impression on him. I think you can see that in the books as the world prepares to go to war against Sauron. So there's just some context for The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, which I think is relevant to our later discussion.
I'm glad you brought.
I'll stop there.
I'm glad you brought up the language thing, because I always watch the special features on the movies, and I learned that when the scenes came for them to speak the language, so if they had to speak Elvish or Black speech, whatever, they would have to learn the lines in that language, and then they had dialogue coaches present for them to rehearse and go back and forth with, which I thought was really cool.
It's just great, because Tolkien literally made up these languages. He made up characters for these languages. They're not in our alphabet.
Yeah.
And so it's brilliant. It really is. He was a brilliant man.
So cool.
So.
Which I don't know if you knew this, but they do it for Game of Thrones too.
Yeah.
So language coaching? Yeah, so what they do for Valerian or Dothraki or whatever, they have the actual language, and they have the coaches there to go and rehearse with the actress and the actors.
Yeah, because I saw an interview with Emilia Clarke, because she's prior to the show starting, it was written, but nobody really spoke it, and so she's one of the pioneers of the pronunciation of Dothraki and Valyrian, and it's so random that this actress who we would never think she is the face of a language. So thank you for that insight, Kenzie.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on. We talked about the Berenstain Bears a little bit. So, it turns out there actually is a third child in the bear family. Her name is Honey Bear. Yeah, and originally, there wasn't even Sister Bear. It was just Brother Bear, and they referred to him as Small Bear. Yeah, because Little Bear is something else.
That is another great show.
Yeah, not to be confused with Little Bill, which
it's a great show.
I don't know if we can talk about that anymore, given everything that's happening right now.
I think this show can still be talked about. Who made the show is a different story.
Okay.
What?
Little Bill is based off of Bill Cosby.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew what the show was. I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, if that was the case, we can't talk about Fat Albert, then.
You're right, we can't. We're going to have to bleep all this out now.
No, what?
I'm just kidding. Yeah, anyway, so the original couple who wrote the Berenstain Bears, the actual Berenstains, were Stan and Jan, and their son's name is Mike. And the first book was published in 1962. It's the same year my mother was born.
Yeah. Historical tidbits.
Yes. Then I talked about Frindle and a bunch of other books. How am I the only person who read these books? They were like
It sounds familiar. What is it about?
Can
you elaborate?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did talk about it in the last episode.
I haven't gotten there yet. I'm only halfway through.
What part? Was that in the first half or the second?
I did skip through some of the corrections. Sorry.
That's a good question. I don't know, actually.
Oh, I read these books.
So Frindle was about this kid who decided that he wanted to change the name of a word, and he chose the word pen.
Yes, I know now.
I read this. I
remember. Okay, sorry. Yes, I just didn't remember.
So anyway, Frindle and A School Story and The Janitor's Boy and The Langer News and A Week in the Woods. There are probably more, but I think those are the only ones that I've read. The author's name is Andrew Clements.
Okay, yeah. I got you now.
Not to be confused with Samuel Clemens.
Definitely a different person.
Yes. Different subject matter. Okay, then I talked about political animals because Sebastian Stan was in that show. So his brother, the actor's name is James Wolk. W-O-L-K. I was looking at his IMDb. He's been in some other stuff, but nothing really prominently. He was the lead in this one show called Lone Star, which was on Fox, like in the late 2000s.
That sounds familiar.
He was a con man who worked in the oil business.
Was it set in Texas?
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was like, we can't have something called Lone Star and it be not in Texas.
Yeah.
As we are the Lone Star State.
Yes, we are. He also did a sitcom with Robyn Williams called The Crazy Ones, which I believe ran for one season when Robyn Williams, So ever since then, he's done some other stuff. Like I think he did one of the voices on Robot Chicken on their last season. So just kind of some random stuff like that. I mentioned the game Rust last week because I bought it and never played it. So that was developed by Facepunch Studios, and they are an indie developer, as I said. So I kicked them some money, so whatever. Then we talked about Thomas Middleditch and how he is the spokesman of Verizon. And of course, naturally, working backwards, we talked about the Can You Hear Me Now dude. So he actually has a name,
How about now?
surprisingly.
Good.
His name is Paul Maricelli, and the Can You Hear Me Now slogan was for Verizon.
Okay.
And now he is the spokesman for Sprint.
Okay.
Wow.
Awkward.
Traitor.
Oh my gosh.
I remember when
Switching
that
to
happened. This was right after the NBA playoffs last year, I think. And I saw somebody post a meme that was like, you thought that Kevin Durant leaving the Thunder for the Warriors was the biggest betrayal of 2016 until this guy showed back up and it was a picture of Paul Maricelli working for Sprint.
He was an icon, man.
Yeah.
Those were such popular commercials.
Okay, then we talked about Jennifer Connelly, because she's going to be in the upcoming Snowpiercer TV series. And I was talking about how I could only remember that she was in He's Just Not That Into You for whatever reason. So, as Brandon suggested, I did a little bit more research into what other movies she's been in. So she was in a movie called Requiem for a Dream.
I had to watch that for school.
How was it?
What's it about again?
I don't know. I've never seen it.
What?
It was when I took psychology of film. We had to watch like a movie every week, and I just remember we watched that movie. I remember that.
Anyway.
So wait, you watched the movie and then you ask us how the movie was about.
Let me remind myself through the page.
Have not watched the movie.
I'm going to remind myself.
Okay, she was in A Beautiful Mind, where she played...
I also had to watch that.
Whoa.
Wait. Is it the right thing or am I wrong?
Probably. Where she played Russell Crowe's wife. She was in Blood Diamond, which I have seen, but it was a long time ago, and I don't recall her role in said movie. She was in Hulk.
The one with Eric Bana?
Yeah.
Oh, it was a movie about drug addicts.
Also, so I'm pretty sure she played Betsy Banner, or what's the guy's name? Ross. Betsy Ross. And
Lady.
No, Betty Ross. Yeah. No, because they did that on purpose.
The guy's name. She's a girl.
What?
What's the guy's name?
No. So
Confused.
Betsy Ross was the woman who sewed
the American flag.
Yeah.
And she's in the comic books, General Ross, Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, he is in charge of hunting down the Hulk.
Right.
She's his daughter. Her and Bruce Banner.
She's okay. Sorry.
She's General Ross's daughter. She and Bruce were in a relationship before the gamma radiation thing happened, and then she's still in love with him after he becomes the Hulk. So there's a whole
interweaving and stuff.
Right. So anyway, he's a very patriotic guy, so they named her Betty Ross as an homage to Betsy Ross. That's why I was confused.
Follow. Okay. Sorry.
Anyway, so I'm pretty sure she plays Betty Ross in the Hulk, and then in the Incredible Hulk, she, along with everybody else, gets replaced by Liv Tyler, who is in Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings, as Arwen.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Good job.
Anyway, Jennifer Connelly, she was also in Noah. Now, I haven't seen this movie. My instinct tells me that
it was okay.
plays... Oh, you've seen it?
I've seen most of it.
Is she Russell Crowe's wife in that movie?
Yep.
That's funny. That's why I brought it up. So she was in a short film called The Day the Earth Was Green, and then she was also in the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. Yeah.
Does she have something about the Earth getting messed up? I mean, it's
Russell
Noah.
Crowe's wife.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get her on the podcast.
Wow.
And ask her. Okay, moving on. We talked about the live-action Cowboy Bebop TV series that's coming out at some point.
It is?
Yeah.
Sorry. I just think it's funny.
Why is that funny?
I don't know.
Why is it funny?
Mostly because I think the title is funny. And I'm trying to imagine something with that title being live action.
So anyway, we were talking about other live-action anime that we've been talking about recently, and I knew there was one that I couldn't think of that was a fairly obvious one. Finally remembered it. It was the Ghost in the Shell movie that came out with Scarlett Johansson a couple months ago, which I never saw.
Apparently it did really bad.
Oh, really?
Apparently it did really
box
really.
office or critically?
Box office, I know it did bad.
No.
Critically, I don't know. Assuming that it did bad, I just thought okay. At the very most, people are going to say it was average.
Mm.
But I don't know how it did critically. But I know box office was really bad.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
But overseas, it did pretty decent.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Then we talked about Chris Evans returning for the sequel to the Avengers Infinity War. And I was talking about his 9-movie contract and how he was contractually obligated to do 3 cameos in the MCU movies. So I mentioned Thor, The Dark World. And then the other one, apparently, and I'm kind of upset about this, the other one is Ant-Man. He's technically credited in that movie because if you haven't seen it, the post-credit sequence, Cap and Falcon go to this abandoned warehouse, and they have Bucky trapped in there, Like they have his arm stuck under a like pneumatic press or something like that. So this scene is straight ripped out of Civil War. Like the exact same thing is in that movie. So I don't think that should count as a cameo, but he's credited in the movie, so I guess it does. So okay, then I talked about Gilmore Girls last week. Gave my hot take on that.
It still shocks me about that.
That I watched it?
Yeah.
That I didn't tell you that I was watching it?
Yeah.
It's a great show.
Because I wanted to surprise you. So I resisted tweeting about it a lot.
Mission accomplished. Even now, I'm just like, oh my god, he watched that.
Because it's a great show.
It is. I've seen most of it, but it still shocks me that he had the patience to. No, okay, I take it back. It doesn't surprise me that he had the patience to watch through it because he has He has actually a lot of patience when he wants to. It still surprises me that he watched it.
Oh, he started it to begin with.
Yeah.
I don't regret it. I enjoyed it.
I'm glad. Once again, I'm glad you did.
It's a charming show.
It is.
So anyway, I said, quote, as with any show that goes on for a long time, it outstayed its welcome towards the end. I would like to modify that statement, as with certain shows that go on for a long time. Not with every show. Like, Game of Thrones has been going on, they're going on season 7. Granted, there's only 10 episodes in each season of Game of Thrones up to this point. Whereas with Gilmore Girls, also 7 seasons, but each season is 22 episodes. So there's like twice as much Gilmore Girls as Game of Thrones. But Game of Thrones, it's not outstayed its welcome with me. Well, it's another show that's gone on for a long time.
I make a note.
Sure.
Asterisk about Gilmore Girls, and especially the final season. We're not counting the Netflix originals. They're fine. But just some context for those who are unaware that the 7th season of Gilmore Girls, they found out like mid-season that it was going to be the final season, like the last season, and so they just kind of had to slap an ending that was good enough together. So I mean. Yeah, I think most Gilmore Girl fans can agree that the 7th season, definitely not the best. Because it was very sloppy, and they thought they were going to have more time to wrap things together nicely.
Yeah. So. I don't know, like I said last week, I didn't even gotten there. Like, I started turning on most of the characters, like, towards season 5.
Oh my gosh, because Rory becomes the worst.
Yes.
I hate Rory.
Yeah.
Ugh! Worst.
But, like, even Lorelai, like, I was really upset with some of the stuff that she was doing.
I know. It's the world that I think continues to be charming, but Lorelai and Rory.
Yeah, no, like, the minor characters, like Suki
great.
and Jackson.
Suki's
and
the best. I love Melissa McCarthy in that so much.
Oh, yeah. Kirk was my favorite.
Kirk. I love Kirk. I freaked out when I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was like, Kirk! It's Kirk! He's playing Kirk, basically. Yeah. Okay. I won't talk anymore about Gilmore Girls.
Okay.
Another subject I can talk too long on.
But yeah.
So, that note.
So then another hot take, I talked about the story mode of Injustice 2. So one thing that I forgot to comment on was that when Brandon gave his hot take, which is actually when we were all together, he had mentioned that when we were watching trailers and talking about them, how some of the super moves looked kind of lame, but that in the context of battle, they, I don't know, just like flows better, like makes more sense, whatever, however you phrased it. Am I getting that sentiment correct for the most part?
Yeah.
Okay. I definitely believe that, actually. I think, like, in battle, like, when it, transitions from, in the middle of a combo to doing the super move, I think looks a lot cooler than just, like, a static.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I went back to some of the videos and I watched some of the original ones from the first one. And some of them I think were definitely better, but some of them I still thought, if you put this in the same context of what the Injustice 2 trailer did, we would say the same thing. So I still stand by my sentiment.
So I didn't get to see every super move, but out of the ones that you did see, like, did you have a favorite one?
Do I have a favorite one?
What surprised you, maybe?
Which one that surprised me? Yeah, actually, I really like Black Adam's. Like,
really?
I still love it when, because compared to the first one he just kind of punches them around and he goes Shazam. This one, he punches them all the way to Kahndaq. Yeah. He slams them into a pyramid. He goes Shazam and he blows up the whole pyramid.
Yeah, that one's okay. I don't know, this probably is my favorite one, but one that I found myself really liking that I don't know if I missed it in the trailers, or they didn't show it, or I just wasn't paying attention, was Wonder Woman's. Hers is really cool.
Yeah.
Really intense.
It's really cool. I like it, yeah.
Oh, Green Arrow's is really good, too.
Yeah, this is pretty good.
One that I hated, though, and this is a shame because in the first game, his was probably my favorite super move, was the Flash.
But really?
Yeah. Like, it was kind of cool the first time, but, so, for those who don't know, basically what he does is he grabs the opponent and runs into the past with them. So first he takes them and slams them into the Sphinx, breaking the Sphinx's nose. Then he grabs them again, runs back farther to like the prehistoric times and throws them into a T-Rex.
like he hits the T-Rex in the face, and then I feel bad because the T-Rex isn't doing anything. He's just like kind of minding his business.
Minding his own business.
And so the Flash brings up his opponent, he slams him into the face.
Yeah.
And he runs away.
And then grabs him again, and then throws the opponent into the opponent right before the Flash takes the opponent and runs off. Yeah, so it's kind of like a time loop there. So two things. One is, I think they had a big missed opportunity to have it be a variable super move, where like the two scenes would like change just like randomly. You know, have like 5 or 6 different times that the Flash could take him back and throw him into different stuff. I think that would have been really neat. So it was kind of lame. And then also, the time loop, when you think about it, doesn't make any sense. I won't go into too much detail because I put a lot of time into thinking about it. And
you put a lot of time into a lot of things.
Yeah, I did.
I almost made a comment, but I'm not going to.
Just trust me when I say, like, I thoroughly analyzed it, and it actually doesn't make any sense. They could have made it make sense, but it doesn't. Anyway, and then the last thing about Injustice is I was mentioning how the guy who did the playthrough that I watched, how he's really terrible at the game. So the name of the channel, like it's not a person's name, it's just called NRM Walkthrough HD.
Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't watch any of their other videos, but I'm just going to go on a limb and say don't watch them play anything because they seem generally terrible at fighting games. I mean, I am too, but I feel like I am more competent than he is. So then we talked about... Oh, we were talking about Krakens. And you mentioned...
it's because I told you my hate for calamari. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And so you mentioned the Ronald McDonald...
Wait, did you hear that part?
Yeah.
Like...
Oh, not in the last podcast.
Okay, I go off on a bit of a tangent about why I hate, like, anything with tentacles.
Well, I look forward to hearing that.
Oh my gosh.
The Ronald McDonald animated videos that you were talking about, the series is called The Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald. And the specific episode that you were mentioning where they go find Grimace's people is called The Legend of Grimace Island.
Shout out to Meredith's uncle, who's a Ronald McDonald. He is the same. Even though she doesn't listen to this.
So, I don't think I said this last week, but I actually know what you're talking about. Like, I've watched
No, yeah, you actually... You didn't say it out loud, but when you said, oh yeah, like I kind of expressed, like, okay, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so... man, those things are so bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Yeah, turns out there's a total of 6 of them, and I've only watched 3 of them.
Yeah.
So.
Collector's items.
Oh, gosh.
Or just go on YouTube and find them.
Okay. I'm just saying, they probably rack up a lot of prices.
Maybe. I don't know. Cause if they are valuable, then that's too bad, because we had the first 3 on VHS, and I bet you we don't have any more.
That sounds mine.
Do you think there's someone out there who collects all of the McDonald's toys?
Yes.
Oh.
My mom did for a while.
Dang.
No, because they were like collectors, Madam Alexander. I don't know if you know that. It's I'm just not. I'll stop. Bye.
Okay, so then we moved on to our top 5, and Brandon was talking about Kay and Kodos, and how in one episode of The Simpsons they impersonated Bill Clinton and his presidential opponent at the time. So that was then Senator Bob Dole.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would never ever remember that.
Yeah.
Still such a good episode. You know Kodos is a girl, right?
Really?
That's his sister. That's Kang's sister. But
Kang?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said K.
Oh no.
I thought you said Kane.
They're both voiced by guys. It's just
Yeah, because one of them is Homer, and one of them, the other one is Principal Skinner. Like, I don't know.
Probably, but yeah, Kodos is a girl, which is still, I refuse to believe it. It's very disturbing.
I never watched that show.
Oh, I love The Simpsons.
Simpsons.
One of my kids at work was saying they watched that, and I was like, "You're like 7.
Yeah.
This is not okay."
Yeah, I started watching when I was about that age.
Oh, my parents wouldn't let me watch The Simpsons.
Really? My mom loved The Simpsons, so she would put it on, and I'm like, I knew it wasn't like,
A child show.
yeah, but I still really thought it was funny. And now that I'm older, I look back and like, first off, oh, man, I can't believe I started watching that show. And two, maybe that's why my sense of humor is so much weirder than most people's.
Also, just for anyone wondering, so they can find the episode or clip or whatever, that was from Treehouse of Horror 7. Then I was talking about the Nibblonains. So the home planet of the Nibblonains is Eternium, not Nibblonia or Niblon 10 or something derivative of Niblonian. I mentioned that they have an eye sticking out of their head, but I neglected to mention that they also have 2 eyes, whereas a normal creature would have its eyes. Or not all creatures have eyes. They're like where a human has eyes. I'm sure there's a term for that, but
Don't most mammals have?
no, because like horses have.
True.
Predators have eyes in front of them so they can see where they're going, and prey have eyes on the side of their head so they can see what's around them.
But isn't someone that's a prey also a predator to something else?
No.
So
Not every time.
like that the horse goes up to that grass man.
Wow, the grass really needs eyes, so watch out for those horses.
The snake has its eyes on its side, but it eats. It's
They're
a predator.
Not like this, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Tangent.
I don't understand the animals.
So then the first time that Nibbler ever shows that he has the power of speech is on the episode The Day the Earth Stood Stupid, which is when the brain spawn first attack Earth.
Oh, yeah.
Then as far as Nibbler's real name, I'm not sure which episode it was, but he says, the quote is, "In the time it would take to utter one letter of my true name, 1 trillion cosmoses would flare into existence and sink into eternal night."
Okay.
So, it's kind of confounding when you
That's
think about
deep.
it.
That's deep.
And then I mentioned that he's, like part of the Niblonians' like defense or army or whatever, and he has a title.
Yeah, he's Lord.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
why didn't you say that last week?
Huh? Because I was looking up right now, like, who was his voice actor, and I remember it's Frank Welker. And I saw, like, oh yeah, I forgot his name is technically Lord Nibbler.
Yeah. And then final correction for Futurama. We're talking about the bad guys from Bender's Big Score. They don't have a species name. They're just referred to as the nude people.
It makes sense.
Yep.
I just,
And then I was talking about the aliens from Falling Skies, just as an honorable mention. So there's 3. There's the Skitters, the Ashveni, which create the Skitters, and then the Vol, which are a separate alien race from the Ashveni. I was talking about the correction that tied into what Kenzie was saying earlier about Tigger trying to find his people. Totally forgot to mention Gonzo in our honorable mentions. Gonzo of the Muppets.
I still remember that movie.
Yeah, Muppets in Space.
I don't remember the whole thing, I just remember that.
I remember watching it. Yeah, I don't really remember.
About what happened with Gonzo, and Gonzo has like this big existential crisis about what he is.
Poor guy.
And Jeffrey Tambor is in that movie.
What?
Mm-hmm.
The more you know.
Mm-hmm.
Who did he play?
Some like government official.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought for a minute,
I
like
love Gonzo.
I thought he voiced a Muppet. I'm like, really? Okay.
No, like he was actually.
Yeah.
He was a person.
So final correction for this week is I totally forgot to mention that Brandon and I did not have any Star Wars aliens in our top 5. Like we did mention a few for our honorable mentions, but I don't know about you, but me personally, I'll just say that when I was thinking of my top 5, every alien that I had something, outstanding about them. Like Diamond Head, he has all of his powers to, shape his body and shoot stuff and whatever. And like the Predators are like, a noble race and they're exceptionally skilled in combat. And
You didn't have the Z. What are they? Zemo?
No,
Nibblonains.
we excluded the Xenomorphs. So yeah, the Nibblonains, they have like eternal life and they're a super intelligent species. The Saiyans are just like
Space monkeys.
Are they just like saying?
Yeah, they're just Saiyans.
Just-
And the Venom symbiotes, have the power to take over their hosts. The Star Wars aliens, not a lot of, superpowers in the traditional sense.
Yeah, that's what the Force is for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, if you really want to be specific, I do like them because they have a lot of variety, and I have to give credit for that. Because you have Trandoshans, which are like blizzard-like people, which is what Bosk is. They're actually almost as strong as Wookiees. So in case you didn't notice, Trandoshans, a lot of the race are slavers. And they have a big blood feud with the Wookiees. Yeah, so it's really, really cool. So they actually dedicate a whole episode of the Clone Wars when the Wookiees come to save the heroes from Trandoshan hunters. And then, of course, Wookiees. You got Rhodians, like what Greedo is. You got Hutts. Hutts. How can you go? Hutts they're gross, but they're so alien. I like it. It's cool.
The Toydarians.
I'm a Toydarian. They're Gungans. Yeah, come on, Gungans.
Yeah, Gungans.
Nemoidians.
Neither one of y'all are Doctor Who people.
No, I'm going to get into it soon.
I've watched a fair amount of Doctor Who. And I mentioned the Daleks and the Sontarans. Yeah.
You didn't talk about any Star Trek characters?
I mentioned the Vulcans.
Okay. I didn't listen to it.
I know.
I don't have time in my life.
You know which ones I almost put on, but I didn't? Did you ever read the Animorph series?
Mm-mm.
You did?
Actually, funny story. I've never actually read them, but my brother did.
Okay,
So I just remember
okay.
posting in the house.
Yeah.
So I would look at the covers because the covers were
Mhm.
super cool.
Yeah,
Because it showed
yeah.
them transitioning, but I never actually.
They have some pretty interesting aliens in
They were
those.
aliens?
No, the Animorphs themselves weren't aliens. They were able to morph into animals based off because of alien technology.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know.
Yeah, so the aliens are pretty
Why
cool.
isn't there an Animorphs movie?
They had a live action show on Fox.
Oh, that kind of rings a bell.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it was
but you'd think it
this
was
like way back when like Power Rangers Turbo was still going on.
Wow.
It was a long time ago. The guy who plays Ice Boy or Iceman in the X-Men movies,
Uh-huh.
he is one of the characters. I forget the actor's name, but he's in there.
Well, that's all of our corrections. But this is actually a light news week, so I think we're going to go ahead and just go over the little bit of news that we do have here. So, first news item is that it was announced that the Bumblebee movie, that's going to be a spin-off of the Transformers series, is going to be set in the 80s.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how that's going to work exactly. I don't know, because, the last night there's going to be some sort of time travel element involved. So, Bumblebee at the end of the movie could, get thrown through a time portal.
Mhm.
Or it could just be, a prequel, because we don't know, because I remember this, the very first Transformers movie, when Sam goes to buy the used car, he's just sitting in the lot, it's a beat up car, he's been through a lot. So, it would make sense.
No, it's true.
He was already on Earth, so
Yeah.
we'll just see.
Because I don't know where the timeline fits, because in the trailer for the last night, when the car is in Nazi Germany, it transforms and it looks like Bumblebee. And why has he been here? It could be another Transformer that looks like him, because that's pretty common in Transformer lore. They have duplicates or twins. So that might be it.
Is it to deceive somebody? Would you call this a form of deception?
No, don't go there. Don't go there. I know where you're going. I refuse to feed into it.
Anyway, then Kiersey Clements, who played the female, I guess not lead, so in the movie Dope, which they have not seen, Robyn's seen, the main character has a couple friends, one of them is female, so the actress's name is Kiersey Clements. She's confirmed to play Iris West in the Flash movie that's coming out. But she's also going to make an appearance in the Justice League movie that's coming out next year. So that's interesting, I guess. And then Zanaya Gurira. No, definitely not Gurira. Who plays Michonne on The Walking Dead. She is Okoye of the Dora Milaje. Do you know if I'm pronouncing that close to right? She the
Dora Milaje.
Okay, they're the king of Wakanda's bodyguards, which is weird because you would think he doesn't really need bodyguards.
You know what's cool about them? They're all female.
Yeah.
Which I thought is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I think Lupita Nyong'o, she's one of them too. Yeah. Because one of them makes an appearance in Civil War. She's not like in her traditional garb, but when she talks to Black Widow, like move or be moved. Yeah.
Anyway, so Michonne, I'm not gonna try to pronounce.
Can you say it like Rick?
Michonne. Anyway, so she's gonna be in Black Panther, obviously, but she's also gonna make an appearance in Infinity War.
Okay.
So they just need to get more people in there. Okay, well that was a great conversation about that. Final news item for this
What
week.
were we supposed to talk about?
Final news item for this week is that Tom Holland confirmed that there is a plan. This isn't firm, but it's planned. I'm sure it will probably turn out this way. That there's supposed to be a Spider-Man trilogy for the MCU. So the first Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire, that was a trilogy. Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3. Then they rebooted it with Andrew Garfield's The Amazing Spider-Man and then The Amazing Spider-Man 2. They only had 2 movies. So my assumption was that it's just going to be this one Spider-Man movie. That was going to be the final Spider-Man movie for all time. But I was wrong.
Trilogy. Yet again. With a young, fresh face.
Yes. Again, the movie hasn't come out, so I don't know if I should be happy about this or disappointed in this.
Is it one of those things where you feel like they should probably just see how the first one goes before they commit to making a trilogy?
Yeah.
Because I know you're big into that.
Yeah. But it's Marvel, and the Marvel train has no indications that they're planning on slowing down, so I'm not surprised. Okay, well, believe it or not, that's actually all the news we have for this week.
Dude, that's actually really surprising.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, E3 was happening, so it's kind of hard to filter out between everything else that was happening, especially since the stupid Twitter app still isn't working right.
Do you have issues with the update?
I haven't updated mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I updated it.
I haven't had issues.
I like it. It's fine. I mean, I don't know why you did it, but it's fine.
Okay, well, anyway, we're going to take a break. We're going to... You get to listen to some music while we watch a few trailers, and then we'll be back. And we're going to do a deep dive into The Lord of the Rings. So stay tuned for that. Okay, we are back, and we've got 3 trailers to talk about. So the first one is for a movie called Rough Night. And I think the best way to describe this is a female version of The Hangover. I mean, obviously, slight differences, but, it's a bachelorette party instead of a bachelor party, a bunch of funny females instead of a bunch of funny guys, and shenanigans happens because of drugs. So, yeah.
Hugs, not drugs. Just thought I'd point that out.
We're not advocates of cocaine usage.
No.
There's a lot of cocaine in this trailer.
Yeah, there was a lot of cocaine.
Yeah, so basic premise is Scarlett Johansson is getting married, and they go on a destination bachelorette party to Miami, which is a little random, but
beaches,
whatever.
bars.
Hotels.
resorts.
Makes sense.
Anyway, so they get there. They purchase some narcotics, which. So I don't do drugs, but I've always wondered, like, if you go out of town, because obviously you can't take drugs on a plane, like that's a bad idea.
Which
Wouldn't get very far.
that's exactly the whole premise of, or not premise, the whole reason the second Harold and Kumar happens.
Yeah, that's right. So I've always wondered, like, if you're, a heavy drug user, you need to get drugs and you go on vacation, like, where do you go to, like, get drugs? Like, how do you know, oh, that guy probably has drugs, let me go ask him for some. Or if you do, see someone who you think has drugs, this random person comes up to you, is like, how do I know you're not a cop? Why are you coming to me? Like, I don't...
I mean, it's the simple, I know a guy that knows a guy that knows this guy that knows a guy.
If you're just on the search for drugs...
Well, that's where it keeps going, because it keeps knowing the guy, and then eventually you go so far out of the state, you have to keep knowing the other guy.
But that's what I'm saying. If you didn't know a guy,
right,
and you just walked up to a guy and you were like, "I want some drugs."
Well, that's how noobs do it.
Because he knows how it will work.
I don't do it. Mm-hmm. I know some people who do it. That's a different story.
Yikes.
That I really don't want to. I don't want to talk about this in public.
So they get the coke. They go back to a house, and then they have a stripper come over to the house because that's
typical of a bachelorette party,
right?
For a lot of people, but not everyone,
right? And then they accidentally kill said stripper, and then they freak out, and then. That's basically where the trailer ends. They're trying to figure out what to do. They call a lawyer. He says, "Don't move the body." They already moved the body. Turns out that's a crime. And then, they just kind of freak out. So, I didn't think this movie looked terribly funny. Like, there were a couple of chuckle moments, but I don't know. It didn't really seem like a big deal. A lot of the, when I just searched for it on YouTube, I was looking at all the videos, and a lot of them had like 30 to 40% of the like to like ratio was dislikes, which is pretty atypical for YouTube videos. So I found that interesting. It kind of reminded me of the Ghostbusters reboot that happened. Was that last year?
Mm-hmm.
Was it 2015?
It was last summer.
No, it came out like at the beginning of the year, I thought.
It was last summer. I remember walking to the... I went to go see it in the Edwards Theater by myself. I walked there. It was like last July or August.
Okay.
Promise.
So I remember when that happened, people like threw a fit. I guess it's a little different because Ghostbusters is such a beloved franchise, and taking it and rebooting it, that's gonna ruffle some feathers. But compounding that with the whole gender swap thing, that didn't sit well with some people. Unrightly, that's not a word.
Unjustly?
Yeah, unjustly so, I feel. I didn't think the movie was very good, but I didn't think that had anything to do with the female cast. So I wonder if that's like the same situation here. People just saying like, oh, this like a movie can't be funny with an all-female or female-led cast. I completely disagree with that. I just didn't think that what we saw was terribly funny, personally.
I don't know. I mean, do you remember when we saw that one trailer for The Last Night? And it was about that girl who was narrating, and that one got like a bunch of thumbs down. That? It was about that one girl was like, "Oh, I hit like a girl, you fight like a girl," and everything.
Oh yeah.
And then that one had a bunch of thumbs down.
Yeah. I don't know. It's I have no facts to back that theory up. It's just something that I noticed, and I wonder if that could be a contributing factor.
It's possible.
Anyway, so then the next trailer that we watched was for Flatliners, which is a remake of a movie that came out, I believe, in the early 90s, starring Kevin Bacon. Now, I haven't seen that movie, so I can't really compare it too much. I just know that it exists. So the premise of this movie is that there's a group of medical students who, in their spare time, kill themselves. Well, they stop their hearts, bringing them to the point of death. You
kill them. You die.
Well, yeah.
But there's a specific way of getting them to die.
And then they have their colleagues resuscitate them. because they say there's, they experience something in that kind of in between when they're no longer alive, they're fading from life, whatever. Of course, they, as happens with drugs, like you need a bigger and bigger fix to feel the effects. So they go longer and longer with their heart stopped, and bad things start happening. Now, like I said, I haven't seen the original, but my understanding is that there isn't really any supernatural elements to it, whereas this was very heavily supernatural towards the end, which, I don't know, like, it's a movie, so like I don't really care that much. It just doesn't really make sense that they would, like, summon a demon or whatever.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of Stranger Things when they do,
They're going too far with experimental things, I guess.
So, like, they open a door to another place, like the Upside Down, and that causes some things to come.
Or, like, Constantine.
But, I mean, the implication of this is that, like, they're killing people by doing this somehow, right? I mean, I felt that's what I picked up on, because, like, there was one splash of scene, someone was, like, swimming in a pool, and at the bottom of the pool it said murderer. So I don't know if that just was implied for the colleagues, literally stopping their colleague's heart, or if it was more of just, like, I mean, they were seeing dead bodies, like, as they were walking around living their lives. That, like, I mean, you couldn't tell from the trailer whether that was their colleagues' bodies, but that one guy saw, like, a baby. So I don't know. I feel like there's, like, something implied that they're doing things they oughtn't, and there's an implication that they're causing other people's deaths somehow. I don't know. That's how
maybe.
I don't know.
Kind of a Final Destination-esque. No, not that one.
I don't know. I'm intrigued. I don't normally watch movies like this, but I might go see that. Maybe if somebody goes with me.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to see the original to see, because like I said, like, I don't know if there's that supernatural element to it, so I'm curious. But I've had that on my list for a while. So
it's an interesting concept, I think.
Yeah.
It's an understandable desire, I think. People wanting to know what happens after death. And knowing that there are so many people whose hearts have stopped and they've had experiences. And you're kind of like, well, is that everyone, or how does that work?
Like Kenneth on 30 Rock. Because of strawberries.
Yeah. So then the third and final trailer that we watched was for Olaf's Frozen Adventure. So this is not a film. This is a a short that's going to be before a Pixar movie, namely Coco, which comes out in November. And so this is, the other shorts that come before Pixar movies are like 5 minutes tops. So, and this trailer was like a minute and a half. So we probably saw about half of this short.
Unless they're making it a lot longer.
And yeah, that's possible, but I don't know.
They managed to jam pack a lot into the short about Eugene and Rapunzel's wedding.
That happens?
Yeah, there was a short.
I haven't seen that.
Pixar movie.
Which one
was it? It was about it was during Rapunzel and Eugene's wedding, and Pascal loses the ring.
What?
And they're like chasing the ring like throughout the whole village.
Yeah,
it's
I don't know what that was in front of, but I've seen
I don't remember what it was in front of.
I still haven't seen
So
Frozen.
I mean, it's
maybe Inside Out or something.
Maybe. So they just
No, because we saw Inside Out together.
Inside Out had lava.
Oh yeah,
that's true. That was the big one that captured everyone's face.
Yeah.
But so I don't. They managed to pack a lot into that. Although they didn't call it a short, they called it a featurette. So maybe it's going to be a little bit longer.
Maybe. Regardless, I just think it's weird to get like a trailer for.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
It is Frozen.
Yeah, I know. It is Frozen. This is also the second Frozen short that's come out since Frozen came out. There was Frozen Fever, which I haven't seen, but
it's cute.
I've yet to see anything Frozen related.
Really? You haven't seen like kids' lunchboxes?
I haven't. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. I haven't seen any. I haven't seen Frozen. I haven't seen that.
Brandon, are you for real?
Yeah.
I have to change that.
And also, Olaf technically does cocaine in this trailer too.
Gosh, it does
It's
not.
not cocaine.
He
Candy cane.
he got a sugar rush, which I mean, I saw the reaction. The guy got high.
I remember one time my senior year, we were at off-campus lunch, and it was at Taco Bell. I remember this. and my friend Bruno, he snorted a pixie stick.
Oh.
And he said that it was a very unpleasant experience. He said it felt like it burned.
I'm sure it did.
Ew. That's gonna be so uncomfortable.
In Orange is the New Black, they snorted coffee.
Oh,
and
God,
then they
I love
had like
coffee.
really, and like hours later, because he had snorted so much of it, they had like it coming out of both ends, like getting sick out of both ends really bad.
Well, because like that doesn't make any sense because cocaine is a powder, and like pixie sticks and
Coffee grounds.
yeah, it's like
Grainy.
granules,
Grainier,
yeah.
yeah.
So that's just a bad idea.
Oh, and their noses were bleeding,
Well,
but that's obvious.
Some coffee, like instant coffee, is more powdery because they've blended the bean down so far to make it more powder, which is disgusting. No one ever drank instant coffee. It's the worst.
That is not true. You
Coffee?
shut your
Best.
damn mouth.
I've had instant coffee before when I was in Mexico. They had instant coffee.
Gross. Anyway, we're not here to talk about coffee.
I might literally just go to my fridge right now and just pull out some coffee just for that.
So
It is.
the main story here is that it's Christmas time or
About to
holiday
be.
time.
BC.
Yeah. And Anna and Elsa don't have any family traditions because, spoiler alert, their parents are dead and they didn't pass on any
Why would
traditions.
Because that's at the very beginning of Frozen.
No, she said that it's her fault they don't have traditions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
she thinks she killed her parents.
She also didn't.
Wait,
like,
what? What?
It's like in the first 5 minutes of the movie. But I mean, they've also been gone for a long time since they were kids. Oh, never mind. I'm confusing things. Never mind. They didn't have any Christmas traditions.
Yeah,
So,
and so Olaf is like, "Oh, I can fix that." In the words of Sam.
asking everyone.
Yeah, so he goes around town. He's like, "Hey, tell me your Christmas traditions."
Sorry, when she said it, I don't know why it was such a late register. Was it really stuff like, I can fix that?
That's how I said it every time.
No, it is. And like, I've yet to like pull that move on a girl and be like, I can fix that.
The slow.
I'm still waiting for him to.
twang.
Yeah, like, just, I need that moment to happen in my life.
Secretly ghost, for goodness.
That's stuff to watch that show.
I love Psych.
So he goes around town asking people for their traditions. They tell him.
Oh, this actually is a good one. Olaf is like, I can fix that. So well. I know she said that, but I told you it was a late reaction. I wasn't paying attention. Also,
Continuing.
it's such a good line. Have you never used that line on Robyn?
No.
Once.
What are you talking about? That did not happen.
If you do it once, then I think you're good.
I am the fixer.
Okay. Never mind. I'm sorry I brought this up.
And then something catches on fire, and then bad things happen.
Misadventure.
You know what that scene reminds me of? So there was one instant in an episode of Simpsons when Homer, he was really mad in traffic or something, and this is when he's having some heart palpitations or trouble. And Hans Moleman is in front of him. He has like this really old
His name
house.
is Hans.
Yeah, his first name is Hans. So like he keeps ramming into the back of Hans's truck because he's moving this house, and Hans is a little older guy, so the 18-wheeler's wheel is so much bigger than him. And then when he gets hit for like a second time, it's like, oh dear. And his glasses gets knocked off. It's like, no, you've done it. And slowly but surely, the truck and the house fall off the edge of a cliff. And for no reason, the house catches on fire. But it's so slow when it happens. It's like, I don't know. That's like the vibe I got from when Olaf's sled gets on fire. So maybe that's why I thought it was so humorous.
Yeah.
But yes, his name is Hans.
So that was basically it. All your favorite characters are back, except maybe the trolls. We didn't see the rock troll.
Maybe they'll make it in.
They probably will, but we didn't see them.
Mm-hmm.
And Marshmallow, he wasn't in there. But
Well, we can do without him. He's angry.
True.
okay, so that's all of our trailer talk. We already did news, so we're going to jump into our feature topic, which is a review or discussion of Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring.
I never thought this day would come on this podcast.
Finally.
At last.
So this will be spoilery, so if you haven't watched or listened or read the novel or the film, then you don't want to know. then now's your chance to stop listening. I will put timestamps in the description so you can skip to when you should skip to. But let's be like Smaug and dive into some treasure.
Let's go on an adventure.
Yeah. I enjoyed this movie a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Yay!
I've seen it before. But it was a long time ago, so I don't really remember it too well. And this was the extended edition that I watched. So, yeah, it was a good time. It was a lengthy journey. It was 2 Blu-ray discs, which was kind of annoying.
Really?
Yeah. Just because I had to get up and take it out and put the...
What?
It's true.
Don't you remember back in the day of cassette tapes where you had to switch?
Yeah, no,
Oh my god. And if they weren't rewound.
Yeah.
Oh
my god.
Worst. Kids these days don't even know.
No. Oh, this movie also had 30 minutes of credits. The extended edition. 30 minutes of credits.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's thorough.
You know how much went into these movies?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these are crazy. With level of detail and commitment. They're committed.
So, Brandon, this was your choice. I don't know how you wanted to do this. If you want to give like a synopsis or just kind of jump around.
Okay, well, how are we going to do a synopsis for this movie? This is such a long movie.
Oh, I can do it.
So let's split it up. So, okay, you and I. Okay. It begins with a prologue narrated by the elf Galadriel, who talks about the history of the rings and the forging of the rings. So it's not the very beginning of Middle Earth, but the beginning of towards the beginning of the second age when the old races have established their power, and then Sauron comes in and he wants to gain control of Middle Earth. So it goes to the history about how the rings were forged and how each race was given a set of rings to govern their race. So the elves had 3, the dwarves had 7, and then the kings of men had 9. And then they all believed that these were gifts given to them, bestowed upon them. But what they didn't know,
different powers and different kind of control over their races.
So is it kind of like Captain Planet, where 5 of them join together?
No, really not even
join together. It's not a togetherness thing.
See, if you made like Green Lanterns or Lantern things, I would have made it. Okay, I could give you that. I refuse to give you Captain Planet. Quick side tangent. Have you seen the one with Don Cheadle?
Yeah.
I have to send you a meme I found.
Oh gosh.
So then Galadriel goes on to speak about how they thought everything was fine until they were all deceived when another ring was made, where in the fires of Mount Doom, in the land of Mordor.
I can read it.
Yay. It's even better like that.
I am reading. I'm making my way back
through very nice.
The trilogy.
Very
actually
nice.
did start with Hobbit. So,
is this bookmark
from
the Vatican? Okay.
I got it when I was at the Vatican.
Sorry, I'm just like comparing because it's a really long bookmark, so I'm putting it right next to the Tower of Barad-dûr, right next to Sauron.
Okay, I'm going to read this now. This is like the classic description of the rings. And it's very ominous. I don't have an ominous voice. I know that. I sound like a Disney princess. I've been told that multiple times. But just pretend it's ominous. 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky. 7 for the dwarf lords and their halls of stone. 9 for mortal men doomed to die. 1 for the dark lord and his dark throne. In the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie. 1 ring to rule them all. 1 ring to find them. 1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. In the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie. Boom.
So
Boom
the
is
rings,
my emphasis.
The rings do join together, is what you're saying.
Under Sauron, but they weren't originally planned as far as like the dwarves and the elves and the men knew that they were going to be. And they aren't really joined together so much as they're under the control of the One Ring, because it's the One Ring that controls all of the others.
So originally it's supposed to be a much more secretive plan where he would have like taken control of that, but in the novel it doesn't work out like that because the other races find out or they aren't affected by it, except for the 9 men who were doing that. So continuing after that, when Sauron forges the rings, she talks about how once he makes the ring, most of Middle Earth is devastated, and his power keeps growing and growing until a last alliance of men and elves are forged. And you can take it from here.
Yeah, so the primary man who's at the fore of this is Isildur, and he is able to get close enough to Sauron, and he cuts off his hand, and the ring falls. And so when that happens, Sauron kind of falls apart, and like his armies are scattered, and his power dwindles. But Isildur is so enamored of the ring, he wants to use it for himself, and thus begins. The ring kind of has a mind of its own, and it acts on its own will.
Right. Because Sauron, a part of Sauron is actually in the ring.
It's reminiscent of what J.K. Rowling does with the Horcruxes in Harry Potter. This was first, by the way, in case there are people who think
by
that
many
it was
decades.
By many, many, many decades before J.K. Rowling was even born. Everyone just remember this, because I saw things after the Hobbit movie came out that people were like, they totally stole this from J.K. Rowling. I'm like, J.R.R. Tolkien wrote this before she was alive. Okay? Anyway, sorry. Damn it. So, Isildur tries to take it for himself, and the ring, which is very manipulative, exposes him. So when you wear the ring, it makes you invisible. But like I said, the ring has a mind of its own. So Isildur died, and nobody knew what became of the ring. It was lost. And so even though Elrond, who's one of the... he's not... They wouldn't call him he's a king. Yeah, king.
Pretty much.
A king
the
of
ruler.
elves.
The ruler.
He's
a ruler.
the ruler of Rivendell.
Yeah.
I
almost said Riverdale.
He's thousands
Totally
of
different.
years old. And so he tried to get Isildur to throw the ring into the fire of Mordor, because the ring can only be destroyed in the fire whence it was made. So, but Isildur would not do it, and he was selfish, tried to take it for himself. He ended up dying. The ring became lost. So, cuts to the modern day tale of the Baggins family. So, background being that Bilbo Baggins, in the story of The Hobbit, in an unexpected journey, came across the ring when he met the creature Gollum, and took the ring, not really knowing what it was. He kind of stumbled across it accidentally and used it to get away from Gollum.
Because Gollum lost it, because it stayed with him for about 500 years.
Yeah, for a long time. And it had control. It had complete control over Gollum.
Then it decided one day, nah, I'm done with this dude.
He was like, I need to move along. And Bilbo was the ring's opportunity.
Which I liked in the prologue. They said, like, an unexpected thing happened, that the ring was not foreseeing.
Nice little tie-in, right?
That as powerful and malicious as this ring is, it was not expecting a hobbit to find it.
Because those hobbits, man, they're full of surprises.
Yeah.
So it opens upon Bilbo Baggins. It's his birthday. And so all of Hobbiton in the Shire is getting ready for his 111th birthday, because the ring also, it stretches you out, and it made Bilbo very young for a long time, and made him older than like the average lifespan. I mean, hobbits live longer than men, but he wasn't really showing any signs of age, which was due to the ring. Even though he wasn't really wearing it, he just kind of, it was in his possession. And so it's his birthday, but he is
kind of tired.
He's kind of tired. He feels stretched thin, like too much butter, or too little butter scraped over too much bread, is the way he describes it. And it's due to the ring. Poor Robyn, she looks so bored. Sorry. It's awesome. Anyway, so he's preparing for his birthday, and the wizard Gandalf comes into town, and
meets up with Frodo.
Seemingly very, unassuming, with some firecrackers, and so Bilbo throws a big party, and he has not told anyone of his plans for departure, but at the end of his birthday party, he makes a big speech, and then he puts the ring on and disappears, and he thinks he's having a good joke on everyone, which is a departure from the book, because Frodo didn't know in the book. Anyway, just side note. Anyway, so Bilbo goes on his way, and he's going off to Rivendell, and the ring is left in the possession of Frodo. And so, but he doesn't really think much about it. And again, for time compression in the book, it's years and years and years later when he has to depart on this journey. But so anyway, Frodo, the Nazgul have found out that the ring is in the Shire with a Baggins, because Gollum did know Bilbo's name and he told it to the Dark Lord. So the Nazgul, or the Black Riders,
or the Ring Wraiths.
They're the Ring Wraiths. They're not in like their full-fledged form as yet, so we can just call them the Black Riders for now. Come into town looking for Frodo, so Frodo has to run away. Even though it's totally stupid in the movie, because he just runs away at the last minute, whereas in the book he's got all this preparation and everyone knows, anyway. So he and Sam, who is his gardener, friend, companion, set off on this journey.
Even though Sam didn't want to, but Gandalf technically made him, which I always felt bad about.
Yeah, well, Sam is very faithful, as is demonstrated throughout the whole of the story. So they set off. They're later joined by Merry and Pippin.
And the whole time, if you're wondering where Gandalf is in the story, he is off trying to do his own thing to see more about what's going on.
Research.
And it turns out that he goes...
We must do research.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Technically, yeah. Because, Uncle is technically a cheat wizard, so... Yeah. So he goes to the head of his order of the wizards, Saruman, to speak to him and talk, hey, what are we going to do about this? And Saruman's like, well, it's only the one thing we can do.
Give up.
Technically, yeah, and just join the bad guys. He basically goes, what? And it turns out that Saruman wants to join with Sauron.
Well, technically, Saruman thinks that he can eventually defeat Sauron himself, which is ridiculous. Yeah.
He eventually captures Gandalf and he puts him at the very top of his tower, or think. Which, I remember when I first saw that was a very terrifying.
It's scary.
Yeah, he gets thrown, hundreds of,
and he, punches through the ceiling.
Yeah.
And you're like, Gandalf's not a young man. That had to hurt.
So that's where he is the whole time with the hobbits.
Right, because they're expecting him to be there with him, and they're not sure where he's at, so that's where he is. Yeah, so they set off. They are being followed by the Black Riders this whole time, so they're all on edge. They're freaked out. They're leaving home. Most of them have not, or Sam especially, had not left a certain point in the Shire. So it's...
Because hobbits don't travel.
Hobbits are homebodies.
They stay in the Shire.
Close, people. Yeah, they're very close to the earth. They're very simple, very, very simple needs.
They like to eat. They like to drink. They like to smoke.
That's about it.
Yeah.
That's their lives. And talk about really weird and petty things.
Yeah.
And take history very seriously.
Yeah.
So they make it to the Prancing Pony, which is an inn on the edge of the Shire, and in Bree. So it's kind of more of a merging place where men and hobbits are kind of all living together, which other hobbits are very suspicious of. Anyway, so they're in Bree, and the inn and while they're in the inn, Frodo accidentally puts the ring on, and so exposes himself, so people get freaked out, and then this stranger named Strider comes on the scene and is aware of what's going on with them, and he's very important later on, but at first they're very suspicious. So as it turns out, Strider's the one that leads them out and away from the Black Riders and takes them on the next leg of their journey. Also very important, I'm just going to note it because it made me so mad the first time that I watched the movie. Tom Bombadil, for those of you who are real and know what I'm talking about, was not in the movie, and I freaking love Tom Bombadil.
Right. In their defense, though, I would feel like it would be very complicated to put him in, because he's pretty much a once and done character.
I know, but he's so interesting.
Could have put in the extended edition.
Even though
I'm already here for 4 hours. That's another 10 minutes.
Honestly. So Strider takes them on the journey and leads them to Rivendell, but not without a few misadventures.
And bumps along the way.
So Frodo actually is wounded by...
He gets shanked.
Basically. He gets shanked by one of the Black Riders. And it's not like a normal wound, even though the wound wasn't very deep. They have different powers, and so
the blade had a lot of dark magic within it.
A lot of dark magic, so he gets really sick, and so they have to get to Rivendell as fast as they can, but they're still being chased by the Black Riders, and so there's kind of a race against time to get Frodo to safety so he can be healed before he dies. So that takes up some time, and then
they meet Arwen.
They get to Rivendell, and there's
you're just gonna skip over the whole scene?
No, I'm just about to say they get to Rivendell, and there's this boss scene where they're at a river, and so it's they got to get Frodo across the river, but the Nazgul or Black Riders are chasing, and so there's this awesome magic that's worked so that these galloping horses out of the river come and are crushing along, and they destroy.
Swoop away.
For the time being, the Black Riders. So that Frodo is taken into safety. In the movie, it's Arwen.
Yeah.
But
in the book, it's Elrond.
It's Elrond and Gandalf. So, anyway.
I like both interpretations.
I like both. It's fine. Important note. Arwen is Strider, a.k.a. Aragorn. What? That's his real name.
They're all the same person?
They're all the same person. Arwen and Aragorn are
a thing,
and it's pretty cute.
Yeah.
One thing I really enjoy about the Peter Jackson movies is that they included things that are not directly in the story of Lord of the Rings, but are in the appendices about Aragorn and Arwen's relationship, which is reminiscent of another couple in the histories of Middle Earth called Beren and Luthien.
Yes.
So,
which was funny enough. I'm glad that NPR recently did an article about that.
Did they really?
Yes, they talked about it. At first, I thought it was like, okay, they're talking about Arwen and Aragorn. It seems kind of random, but I looked into it and they talk about that. I'm like, it's so good,
so touching. Anyhow, so they're a thing. It's pretty cute, but he's like, I can't because he's got like all this tragic history and all this stuff, and
because she's immortal,
she's gonna immortal because elves are immortal in the Lord of the Rings. In Middle Earth, and so if she was with him, then she would become mortal and she would die. And he's like, can't die.
It's just like Twilight.
Yeah,
except reversed, kind of.
Yeah, and she doesn't suck the life out of people.
It's kind of the opposite. He does it to her, kind of technically.
Yeah,
it's her choice.
Yeah,
it's free will. Anyway, so Frodo is healed. He wakes up, and there's Gandalf, and
all his friends.
There's his friends, and Bilbo is there too. And so they have the Council of Elrond, and so you've got representatives from the Elven races.
I think we should talk about it real quickly, like the whole talk that Gandalf and Elrond have. I mean, it's not really important, but it gives a lot of exposition between like what the history was and how Elrond was present there after the battle of...
But she already said that.
I know, but like it just talks about like how he explains more about like what happened and how Elrond has no faith in men when it comes to the ring, because he tells Gandalf that even though Frodo has done this much and he's sacrificed a lot, the ring can't stay at Rivendell because they don't have the power to protect against Sauron. Yeah. So when Gandalf's like, okay, well, you can have these people take it on, and eventually he says there's only one person that can do it, which is, spoiler alert, Aragorn, and he says, yeah, but can they really? Because the strength of men failed the day Isildur decided to take the ring. And again, it didn't really need to be talked about, but I think it was important exposition as to like why the story just doesn't end at Rivendell.
Right, because a lot of people are kind of like, well, why didn't the elves? Because the elves are immortal, and like,
I have all this
they've got
magic.
all this great, good magic, and I think the hobbits feel that way too, because in their mind, like their whole end goal is Rivendell, and they don't really see beyond that on their way there.
Yeah.
They only see getting to Rivendell, having this kind of big adventure, seeing the world, and then going back home.
Which like even Frodo says, I am ready to go home.
Yeah, he does. And so he's like, I've kind of had enough. I'm good. Had injury, had to bear this thing. So, but then they have the Council of Elrond. So you got some representatives from the elves, from men, from the dwarves. And once they are given the full story about the ring and what its purpose is, they all kind of get into an argument about what should be done about it and who should take it and who's to be trusted. And, because not all of them have the best histories with one another. So there's some tension. And, you know, there's, like, great moment where Gimli tries to kill the ring with his axe, but it shatters his axe instead.
Gimli's a dwarf, by the way.
Yeah, Gimli is a dwarf. And then, you know, there's the famous line from Boromir, who is a man from Gondor, which is on the edge of, right next to Sauron's land, right next to Mordor. And so he's one does not simply walk into Mordor. As the line.
It used to be such a cool line. Now it's
just a meme.
Now it's just a meme. But
I still like the line. It's just like, when I was rewatching it, I'm like, okay, there's so many things you could say at this moment.
No, there's a bunch of times in the movie where I just started laughing because of memes that have come out of it. Like, there's that one, and then there was You Shall Not Pass. And
what about
like
Second Breakfast?
Yeah, that one. And even like when Gandalf escapes from Isengard, when he jumps on the eagle, I was cracking up because if you've ever seen How It Should Have Ended Lord of the Rings, which is one of the very first ones they ever did.
Yeah, very true.
They're just like, oh, let's just ride these eagles into Mordor. And it's over really fast. So it just all cracked me up.
So it's decided at the council that they're going to be representatives from each race. So the company ends up numbering 9 because, you know, they're all arguing who's going to take it. And then Frodo says, I will take it, though I do not know the way.
Everybody says, like, oh, you can't go into Mordor because of this, and why should we give this to the enemy again? And they're all fighting, and eventually Frodo finds out that, okay, if somebody has to do it, then I'll take the burden. Yeah. And then I remember Gandalf, like, he gets a really sad but, like, happy look, and he looks at Frodo, and everybody turns around this little person, and they're like, what did you just say? And he says, I will take it. Like, I will take the burden. Yes.
Yeah. So, in the end, it is decided that Frodo, as well as Sam, Merry, and Pippin, will go with Aragorn and Boromir representing men, and Legolas, elf of Mirkwood, will represent the elves, and Gimli, son of Gloin, will represent the elves. Or the elves. The dwarves. Yeah. I just said elves.
And that's where the movie ends.
The end. Just kidding. That's where disc 1 ends.
Yeah.
We're still going.
Yeah.
So this is the title of the movie. So this is The Fellowship of the Ring, numbering 9, and they set out on their way from Rivendell to begin this journey, knowing and they're under no pressure or obligation, knowing that Frodo has offered himself to go to Mordor to cast the ring into Mount Doom, but the rest of them are not obligated to go the whole way with him. So they all know that going in, but to accompany him as far as they are able. So they set out.
A little bit is just of them like walking. You get a little bit of montage of them going through the lands,
which is New Zealand. Yes, and it's awesome.
Yeah, when I was watching this movie, I was like, I totally get why people say like, oh, I want to do, because there's like a trek they can do, see like a lot of the spots. I was like, I totally get it. Like it's beautiful.
Like when Dwight says in the office, like one of my goals is to go to New Zealand and walk the path of Lord of the Rings. I'm like, yeah, that's, you know, he says a lot of dumb stuff, but this is actually pretty reasonable in my book.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous. And that's one of the things I really love about Lord of the Rings is that all of the filming that they did in New Zealand, I think it really adds to the quality of it gives
it the world of Middle Earth. And even though they're traveling, it seems pretty straightforward. Eventually they find out that they can't do it like that because they're being spied on by Saruman and his other forces. So they try and do various attempts to go secret pathways, but every time they try, Saruman finds a way to bring up an obstacle or stop them. So what ends up happening is they have to, Gimli offers up a way that they can go through the mines of Moria and go underground in order to come out the other end. And Gandalf doesn't want to do that because he knows what's in the mines. But at that point in the movie, they're on top of a mountain pretty much, and it's freezing. Yes, and Saruman just caused the entire avalanche to come on. So Gandalf said,
freezing or going.
Yeah. So Gandalf says, we'll let the ring bearer decide. And Frodo decides, for the good of the company, let's go through the mines. And Gandalf said, so be it. So they make their way to the mines of Moria. And the only way that you get to the mines is through the secret doorway that can only be activated on a certain moon on a certain day. And of course, so happens looky here, we have the moon. And then so Gandalf says the only way you can open it is you speak the password. And he tries all these different things and it doesn't work out.
Because on the door in Elvish it says speak friend and enter. Mm-hmm. So he's trying to figure out what the word is, but it's a play on words because it literally is just speak the Elvish word for friend.
Yeah.
LOL.
And he never doesn't say how much time has passed, but at some point, like, they're just sitting down because you're waiting for these doors to open majestically and just like. And the whole time, like, Gandalf's like pretty much like going with his stick at the door trying to open it.
It's a great scene.
And then,
there's the creature.
Yeah, because Merry and Pippin were throwing rocks in the water.
Because there's like a big pool right next to the door.
And Aragorn says, "Stop it, because don't disturb the water." And finally, like what Kenzie said, Frodo manages to unlock the riddle and it gets Gandalf to say the word. And they go into the mines, into like this antechamber. And Gimli's like bragging about, oh, now you're going to experience the hospitality of the dwarves and see all these great things that we dwarves have to offer. Because Gimli thinks
that there are still dwarves down in the mines. Because they haven't really heard anything. Like, his
cousin.
His cousin went into the mines, but...
well, he's like the king or the lord of the city or whatever.
Right, and so but they hadn't heard anything from them in a long time, and so they weren't really sure how they were faring. But Gimli was expecting to see them.
So when they go into the antechamber, Boromir knows, like, this isn't a mine, it's a tomb, and he sees all these dead bodies, not even dead bodies, dead skeletons of dwarves, and they're just scattered all across the floor, and then Gimli realizes what's going on. So Boromir is like, okay, we have to get out of here. He said we're going through the lands of Rohan, and sure enough, what happens, but this giant squid-like monster comes out, and again, it goes back to the damn squid. Like, everyone was like, oh my gosh, I literally had this talk last week. And this monster, I mean, it has no affiliation with any dark forces besides the fact that it's a monster right there. So it was actually a pretty cool fight because all these tentacles are literally going everywhere. They're attacking the Fellowship. Of course, it centers on Frodo, so it picks him up and it's holding him like several feet above the air while everybody's trying to save him. And eventually they do. But in doing so, the creature ends up bringing down the doorway, and they have no choice but to go through the Mines of Moria. Which, if it's not telling me anything at this point in the movie, is like, whenever you travel with a group of people, bad things are always going to happen.
Oh.
Yeah. So they go through the mines. They have no choice but to go through. It's super dark. It's super, super big as well. But they keep going, and they're all relying on Gandalf's knowledge to go through until they reach a point where Gandalf's like, I have no memory of this place.
And he just sits there for a while. Everyone's just kind of chilling.
Yeah, and they're like, what do we do now? And then Frodo's just kind of like, and he looks over the edge of where he's sitting and he sees this little thing crawling up the rocks. So he goes to tell Gandalf what it is. And Gandalf tells him it's Gollum.
Like, oh yeah, that's old news.
He's like, he's been following us for 3 days. And he's like, why didn't you tell us this? And Frodo was wondering, like, how was he let out of the dungeons from Sauron? And this part of, like, they don't explain it in the movie. They explain it in the books, but he said, like, you either escaped or he was let loose. Dun dun dun. And then this one scene is where I think is one of the highlights of, like, conversations and dialogue in Lord of the Rings, because a lot of people know the movies for these epic action sequences and battles that took war sequences into a whole new level. But there's a lot in the films where a lot of the spirituality of Lord of the Rings is coming out whenever characters have certain discussions. And Frodo says it was a pity that Bilbo didn't kill Gollum when he had the chance. And Gandalf's like, pity. It's pity of what stayed Bilbo's hand, because he could have killed Gollum just like that, but he saw what Gollum was, and that this creature was tortured beyond healing, that killing him wouldn't solve anything. Yeah, but if you see something like that, like...
And, I mean, in the end, like, as Gandalf says, like, Gollum might have a role to play yet. And in the later book, movie storyline, he does. And it's
spoilers.
I'm just saying he has a role to play, so there's a reason why he wasn't killed.
And there's another part that Gandalf says, like, it's so easy for people to assume they can choose between life and death. And he said a lot of people who die deserve life, and a lot of people who live deserve to die. And he says, can you choose that power for that? And just like what he says is just so memorable and touching that you're like, oh my god, I can't believe, like, this 5-minute scene caused me to feel all of this. It's too deep. It's deeper than the Mines of Moria. And then eventually it's like, oh, it's this way. And they're like, what? And it's like, how do you know? You remember? And he says, nah, it just doesn't smell that bad down here. So they go down, and then he shows them the true Mines of Moria. And I remember that scene is like one of the most beautiful things I've seen. But it's also really sad too. And then Gimli sees a little room right there, and he goes into it, and he thinks it's survivors. And turns out it's another tomb. It's his cousin. And it's a whole moment of like him
crying.
Yeah, and then
like wailing.
And then Gandalf finds a journal from one of the dead dwarves and speaks about what was going on in Moria at that time.
Log of the activities.
And it basically tells that orcs had overrun the mines at that point. And whoever is here, like, they need to get out because there's no way out for the dwarves. And then they're like, oh crap, what do we do?
And then Pippin knocks over a bucket.
Yeah.
And all hell breaks loose, and the orcs come for them.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah.
Unrelated to what's happening in the story. So, Mary's real name is... Maria Doc. And then Pippin's real name is Peregrine. I think they should have named them Mary and Perry. That would have been better, but...
They aren't... I was going to say, like, they aren't Donald Duck's nephews. That's, like, what I got from that. They speak like Donald the whole time.
I mean, you could get Perry more easily from Peregrine than Mary from Meriadoc. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, and Pippin doesn't really come from Peregrine. But anyway, sorry. I just wanted to get that in before I forgot.
I mean, you could always, like, resurrect J.R.R. Tolkien's spirit and, like, argue with this. It's like, oh, yeah, I have some, like, changes.
Suggestions.
Do they have a Ouija board at the front desk?
Oh my gosh, stop.
I mean, I'm sure we can purchase one.
Stop.
I'm not gonna do it with you, but
No,
you can
not
do
funny.
it.
That is real.
You can do it if you want. I'm not touching that thing.
Could you get one of those on Amazon Instant?
I don't know. Why are you asking
Have
me?
a drone delivered to me in 20 minutes.
It's gonna be more than
Tolkien
that.
would not come to you if you tried to summon him. He was a good Catholic man, and as you are as well, don't joke about the Ouija board.
I do have like a Monopoly replica of the One Ring. Maybe we could use that to like resurrect his spirit.
Oh.
I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh.
So the orcs come and attack the company, and it's a pretty badass battle sequence that comes out. And then that's when the cave troll comes in, and everybody's like, "Oh my god!"
You mean Doomsday?
Cave troll.
Huh?
You mean Doomsday?
Yeah. Actually, technically, he does do what Doomsday does in the film. And everybody's doing their best to take down this troll, but the troll just won't go down.
Always comes down to a troll.
Yeah.
Troll in the dungeon. Troll.
And eventually, the troll corners Frodo, and he stabs him with his giant spear. And it was like, no, Frodo! So they start attacking the troll head on. And everybody thinks Frodo has died. So eventually they kill the troll and they go to Frodo and they think the worst. Turns out Frodo's still alive.
Because he's got a mithril mail coat.
Can you explain what a mithril shirt is?
Mithril is the most precious metal property in Middle-earth. Much more precious than silver or gold. And it was mined by the dwarves in Moria, which is relevant because the next stage of getting through the Mines of Moria is them battling Gandalf battling a creature called a Balrog. And that's where the dwarves originally went wrong in Moria because they were mining too deep and they were mining too far and they disturbed things that they should not have disturbed. And so dredging up the Balrog. And so when they were mining for mithril, because they were greedy for it, because it was so beautiful and so precious, and it's such a hard metal. So he has a mail coat of mithril that Bilbo gave to him, that Bilbo got from Smaug's treasure hoards back in the day. And so...
didn't Gandalf say that Thorin gave it to him?
Yeah, well, Thorin let him keep it.
Oh, okay.
It was in
Erebor.
Yeah.
So after the incident in there, they run out to the bridge of Khazad-dûm in order to escape from Moria, and the whole time they're getting attacked by orcs and everything, and the whole time they're just showing again like how awesome they are. Legolas shoots like multiple arrows at a time, which is why he won the fanfic fight that's one time.
Awesome acrobatics.
They almost die from like this crumbling staircase, but they managed to live, and everything seems to be going fine for them.
Then
the Balrog comes out.
And it's like this big, horrible fire demon.
Which
that's essentially what
yeah,
it really is.
It's a really cool monster though.
In the Tolkien lore, like it's essentially the equivalent of a demon.
Is it a demon of fire and shadow?
Yeah.
So they're almost going there until Gandalf says like he doesn't say, he says go, and he holds off the Balrog, and he says he's not gonna let the Balrog pass. And the Balrog tries all these different times. I'm not gonna say you say it. You say it.
No, I sound less like Gandalf.
No,
than you do.
I don't sound like you. He says you shall not pass, and the whole time
you shall not pass.
That's pretty good actually. And eventually he destroys the bridge, and when the Balrog tries to go across, the bridge collapses, and everything seems fine, because the Balrog falls into the very depths of Moria, and as Gandalf is walking back, the Balrog reaches out with his whip, and he brings them down. Oh my god, I hate this scene.
It's the worst, because everyone is freaking out.
They want to save him, and then he's still holding onto the ledge, but Gandalf eventually says,
"Fly, you fools."
And he lets go of the ledge and just falls, and I'm like, even after all this time, I'm still watching. I'm like, why did that happen? I remember the first time I started Lord of the Rings, I'm like, it doesn't matter. So I saw a little bit of the Two Towers in the beginning. I'm like, oh, okay, this happened. So I quickly caught on to the story. But when I finally watched all of Fellowship of the Ring and the part where Gandalf falls, it's so heartbreaking.
It's so emotional.
For about like 3 minutes, there's no dialogue. It's no nat sound, no nothing. It's just music and
just
imagery.
Music and the most horrible imagery. Everyone is just
Crying.
like trying to run out of Moria, and they're crying and they're panicking, and it's sad.
Yeah. And then Aragorn takes the lead and says, get them up, we have to get them out of here before more orcs come. So eventually they make their way to the forests of Lothlorien. Yeah. And then they meet up with Galadriel, who I mentioned in the prologue.
Yeah.
And
His boss.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
You don't, in the film, you get kind of a really weird gauge for, I think because I mentioned this in the our casting announcement, well, not casting, our casting we did for the Avengers. I mentioned how I wanted to do her for Thanos because you get this really weird, graceful but threatening and powerful
vibe from her.
Yeah, and it's like you don't really know what to feel.
Yeah.
So during the time of Lothlorien, Frodo sees her going somewhere and he follows her. And he starts speaking to her, and she says, will you look into this mirror? And she's like, what are you going to see?
Oh, things we should also know about Galadriel. She can read people's thoughts and communicate telepathically with them.
So, in the mirror...
She's kind of powerful.
Yeah.
Just like in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah. Sure.
That's true.
Well, because Kate Blanchett...
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah. Just... doesn't turn out the right way for her in that movie.
Yeah. Anywho.
So when Frodo looks into the mirror, he sees all this devastation that comes. He sees somebody betraying them. He sees the Shire destroyed, his people enslaved. And that whole time, like towards the end, Sauron's eye comes out and he sees the ring starts coming. This is part where it gets kind of freaky. The ring starts coming out of his shirt.
That part is what freaked you out?
It's not the freakiest part, but it's one of them. Because like that's when like things get kind of edgy and like, ugh. And then Galadriel says, I know what you saw, because it's gone through my mind too. And she kind of tempts him and says, but if you give me the One Ring? And Frodo says, what if I gave it to you willingly? And Galadriel, this is where you can see...
That's where she freaks out.
Yeah, because she says, like, I've never expected my heart to be like this, but if you offered it so freely to me, it's literally within me grasping and reaching out. And then this part is, oh my god, like when she says, like, in place, like, if I would get this ring, in place of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen. And then she goes all grudge on you.
And terrible, and she's scary.
Yeah, desperate as a dawn. And she goes back to her normal form and she says, I passed the test. I'm not going to take this ring.
Nah.
And I remember Frodo was still like, what? He's like, WTF? Like, what? Like, what is this? And, yeah, so Galadriel says, like, this is your burden. Like, you need to bear this in order to get there. And he says, I know, but I don't think that I can. And again, this is like one of the great parts that brings out the spirit of the book. So when she says, even the smallest person can change the course of the future. And that's where that scene ends. And probably should just make a like really quick side note. The whole time, there's also another subplot with Saruman where he's making a new breed hybrid of orcs and men. He basically creates the Uruk-hai, which are these, like I said, it's a cross between men and orcs. So they're bigger, they're stronger, they can run into the sunlight without being affected, and they're just like improvements upon them. So he sets them out to hunt for the hobbits to bring them back the ring. And so the Fellowship leaves from Lothlorien on these boats. They're going around and they're like, okay, we'll stop here and then we'll make camp.
Okay, wait. Okay. Back up.
What did I miss?
Okay. Before they leave Lothlorien, Galadriel gives them gifts because it's important. And the gifts are very important later on.
I mean, yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, so she gives them gifts, and
I was still remembering what only in the original theatrical release did. I forgot the extended version. They do take the time to explain what she gives to them.
I've actually never seen the theatrical release.
Oh, really?
So I don't know what the differences are.
In the theatrical release, it only talks about when she gives him the star.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So she gives Frodo the star of
oh, okay.
Elbreth, right? What am I
Star of Hammurabi.
No. It's Elbreth.
What did you just say?
Oh, that's what
Isn't
he
that
says.
what it
Like
was?
Elbreth, Gathoniel, like.
We just talked about it last
No,
week.
I mean, yeah, but like...
Anyway, she gives him like the
Star
light
of
from the
Eärendil.
star.
The Star of Eärendil.
Eärendil. Well, they're like, oh, anyway.
I know, there's a lot of ease. There's a lot of ease in this story.
Words that are unfamiliar. So she gives him the star, and she gives other gifts as well. I think one of the most precious moments is, okay, side note, like dwarves and elves kind of have big beef between them, okay? Like they don't get along. The races have never get along. They don't really understand each other very well. So, and like they had to go through all these hoops so that Gimli could come into Lothlorien because we didn't really say, but it's a kingdom of the elves. And so they had to go through all these hoops, but Gimli is like completely besotted with Galadriel and he thinks like she is the best thing that's ever happened. So she's like, what would you have from me, Master Dwarf? And he asks for 2 hairs, or he asked for a hair from her golden head, and he's like, she gave me 3. And I don't know, I just think it's really precious. Anyway.
And that's important later in the story?
It's important to me.
Yeah,
Anyway.
because like these two races have fought with each other for...
It's a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, that's not the biggest thing. But she also... Is that in the movie with the box of soil that she gives to Sam?
I don't remember that.
I do not remember that.
Anyway, whatever. She gives Bilbo the star, the light
Frodo.
of yes, Frodo the light from the star of Anduril, and it's very important later on in the story. They also get cloaks that help them blend into their surroundings, and they get limbus bread, which is sustaining, which is a symbol for the Eucharist. Shout out to my fellow Catholics.
I remember when I saw that, I thought it was a giant crouton.
It does kind of look like a giant.
I literally thought it was a giant crouton when I saw it. I'm like, huh. So when this is when I first watched it. So whenever I ate a crouton, I pretended it was like this.
Oh my gosh, I'm never gonna get through this description. So they make. I guess we're almost there.
Yeah.
They make camp, and Boromir follows Frodo, and like the whole like time that the Fellowship has been together, Boromir was originally like, give the ring to Gondor and Gondor won't fall.
Because Gondor has sacrificed so much, so it's only right to do that.
Yeah, to protect everyone else, because they're the closest front to Mordor. And so he's like, help us to defend and protect Gondor so we can protect everyone else. So the whole time, like, there's kind of dropping hints, like, Boromir wants the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that he's kind of struggling with it, but there's like this kind of final moment where he like attacks Frodo and tries to take the ring and has like this horrible meltdown. And so Frodo runs off, and it's really sad. Boromir's like starts weeping and like it's horrible. And then like the Fellowship is kind of scattered because everyone was like, oh, we're gonna get ready for camp, and Frodo was like, I need to be alone, and then Boromir followed him, and so he runs off, and they're looking for Frodo, and a band of orcs come and they start attacking the Fellowship, and there's some really boss fight scenes. They're like some of the most legit scenes, and all
like every person can take out maybe like 20 people by themselves.
And so, like, everyone is just on the defense, and,
telling Frodo to, like, go, come on, get out of here.
Yeah, and so Frodo runs back down to the boats, and he's just planning now. He's like, I can't
he like can't bear the thought of dragging these other people that he's come to care about so much into Mordor, into death. And so he is planning to set off on his own. And while that's happening, Boromir is trying to defend Pippin and Merry, and ends up like completely just being covered in arrows by the orcs. But it's such a boss scene because he gets hit and then he just keeps fighting, and you're like,
yeah,
how?
dude gets hit 3 times, and each arrow, they're not like little arrows, they're like about the size, they're about the size of my arms, and he just keeps fighting them,
and it's amazing.
And like by the second arrow, I'm like, how are you guys like losing to this guy?
And so, but in the end, like he
redeems himself.
He does die, and Legolas and Aragorn kill what orcs they can, but the orcs have made off with Merry and Pippin and taken them as captives.
Because they assumed that they were only told that the halflings had the ring, so they didn't know which ones did.
Yeah. And so they didn't find Frodo, so they just carried off Merry and Pippin. And so Frodo's trying to escape by himself, and Sam is like, "You're not leaving without me, Mr. Frodo," and he chases after him into the water, even though Sam can't swim.
I remember like Frodo started this episode, like, "You can't swim!"
He just starts sinking, but Frodo pulls him out of the water.
Yeah.
And
I remember when I also first saw that scene, I'm like, this is terrible. They're gonna kill off another guy? Like, the worst way possible?
Yeah. And so, then Frodo and Sam begin the next stage of the journey, and Legolas and Gimli and Aragorn are trying to chase after Merry.
Yeah, and I like how they all made the promise,
and
like,
that is
we'll do that.
The end of the Fellowship of the Ring. Yay, we made it.
Okay, so what else?
Okay, so personally, I have one question and then one comment, and then if you guys have any, miscellaneous thoughts, then we'll give Robyn a chance to give her thoughts. So, question is, when I was watching this, I was just baffled as to how they filmed it, where the hobbits appear so much smaller in stature than everyone else,
right.
and Gimli to a certain extent too. Because it's so weird that, like, they're all the actors are obviously fully grown human people, but then in the movie, like the dwarves or the hobbits are about half the size of men. So, do you guys know how they did that? Because I didn't get a chance to watch any of the bonus features.
Let me look it up real quick, because I know it's a very simple, not a simple thing, but they have an explanation, which is funny because the actor for Gimli, he's actually super tall. Oh, really? He's about 6 something.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
And what was your comment while I looked this up?
I was just struck throughout this movie how amazing the score was. I mean, it was just like moving when it needed to be moving. It was powerful when it needed to be powerful. It was charming and peaceful. It was incredible music. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, the music's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I have any additional comments. I'm really ticked off about Tom Bombadil because he's great. Also, another thing, just while we were on the subject of music, they're very musical in the world, like in the land of Middle Earth. And so in the books, that really comes through. Like, they're always singing about something. Even, like, they have songs for war. They have songs for traveling. They have songs for drinking. Like, they have songs for everything. And they do, when they're in the Prancing Pony, like, have a moment. They have a moment of singing, right? Is it in the movie? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it's when they're still in the Shire, like, before the Prancing Pony.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in the book it's like while they're at the Prancing Pony. So, but there's just a lot of singing. So that's one thing I like. Again, I totally get it. Time constraints. They cut out Tom Bombadil because you're kind of like, what? Who is this guy? How is he important? I totally get that. But and again with the songs, like, they're just really beautiful, and I think they were able to kind of bring that in a little bit more in the Hobbit movies. Definitely brought in some more of the singing. But
yeah, because that's one book stretched out into 3 movies.
Yeah, so, which is just one of the things that I missed in the movies, because they really have songs for everything. And, like, they have songs, like I'm rereading Return of the King, which is the 3rd book. Actually, here's an important note. When J.R.R. Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings, he did not intend it to be a trilogy. He wrote it as one book, and the publishers were like, nobody's going to read this. It's 1,000 pages. So they broke it up into a trilogy, but it actually was not originally meant to be a trilogy. So actually there are some editions of the book where the pages are continuous. So it depends on, like, there are different editions. So, like, mine, the one my mom bought me is not continuous. But in certain editions, like, the pages continue from one book to another. Or you can actually get editions of the book where they're all in one.
So actually, the way, to go back to your question, how they filmed it, they did it a number of ways. So they would either use like doubles for the actors if it was like from a far away perspective, or if they were in stationary moments, they could just be kneeling and just like have the substitute version of that. Or another way, this is the most complex of what I understood, they did 2 separate shots. So they would film like the hobbits or the dwarves doing whatever they did, and then they would film the exact same version with the people who were supposed to be regular height, and then they would merge the 2 scenes together.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I figured, but that just sounds like so much work.
That's what they did. That's why
it's amazing.
That's why we have 30 minutes of credits.
You know, I mean, when you think about the level of costumes, like, can you imagine all of that hair and makeup for all of those people? Especially in the scenes with like tons of people in it, and like all of the orcs. And when you can see their little hobbit feet. Yeah, like, and all of the orcs, and like they're all people in
those are practical
costume.
effects.
Yeah, they did all practical, like as much practical effect as they could do in these movies. They did it. There's not a whole lot of CGI. There's not a whole lot of like,
most of it comes out in Lothlorien and in Moria. Everything else is pretty much on location.
Wow, how did they get that like river scene with the horses? That must have been really hard to make.
I mean, there's no way they could have green screened that. Like, I mean, of course, like they didn't have actual water horses, but you know.
Yeah. So they did as much, which is another one of the things that I appreciate about it, because a lot of movies, like, okay, like CGI is obviously getting a lot better, but like there's a lost art to adding the depth, I think, in movies that people were able to do before when they were not so concerned about CGI.
Yeah, like I think that's one of the big complaints about Jurassic World compared to Jurassic Park, because all the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, well, maybe not every single one, but for the most part, like they're animatronic, and then just go into Jurassic World, which I really enjoyed. Yeah, but you can feel like
a little bit different.
You can feel the difference. Yeah, it's there, and you know you can appreciate the artistry that has to go into that, but it's not the same. It's something that really has depth.
Yeah. And I really enjoy like what this movie did for the fantasy genre in general, because I know a lot of times, really before the movie was like, if you were ever pitched an idea to say, hey, let's have a live action fantasy thing, they're like, okay, it's gonna be campy, it can be this and that, but there's no real story behind it. And then I remember when I was watching the interviews with Peter Jackson, when he read these books, he said this would be a fantastic movie to make. And he tried his best to pitch it, and nobody wanted to pitch it. But until he went to New Line Cinema, and he pitched it. And he showed everything that he invested into these movies. And they were like, okay, we'll let you do it. Yeah. And I remember like when even the first movie came out, everybody was blown away by how amazing this was. And this is part of the reason why I was so adamant watching The Hobbits in theaters. I know it's not the same experience, but I had to watch like the whole Middle-earth saga in theaters. Because when I watched these, I'm like, I can't believe I missed this in theaters. Like, this would have been fantastic to see for the first time, like, on the big screen. And I feel like this is very much like how Game of Thrones has kind of revamped fantasy for television. And it's done so many new revolutionary things that Lord of the Rings has done for filmmaking.
Yeah.
Although it's interesting, because when you look at the books, like, I wouldn't really consider Lord of the Rings. I was talking to my mom about this earlier, because my mom is a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. That when you read the books, I mean, they're fantasy, but I feel like they're more epic. You know, if they fell more into like the epic genre.
No, definitely. You can see by the way he writes it.
The way he writes it is much more of an epic than it is of like straight up fantasy.
Because I remember when I was talking about Sauron for my ABC of Geekdom while I was playing, like, he's not like the villains you would see portrayed nowadays, because people like their villains to have more of a relatable goal and real feelings, and Sauron is nothing like that. But at the same time, I really enjoyed him as a villain because he's this amorphous evil that you can unite against, that he has no redeeming quality. And I think in a way, even though you take away some of the relatability of the villain, it's a good thing because he shows that there's something against the world that you need to fight for. Yeah. And yeah, so I don't know, this movie is by far one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, and I'm glad you enjoyed it too.
Yeah. You should watch it.
You should. It's fun. It is long.
Yeah.
But, I mean, especially, like, the beginning is very charming with the hobbits. And the hobbits are just charming in general. I feel like because they are, like, the most relatable. Yeah. Because you're like, yeah, like, that's just how I want to live my life. Like, food and drink and a comfortable home. And, like, just having a good time.
There's this YouTuber that I watch. His name is Jeremy Johns, and he loves Lord of the Rings so much, like both the books and the films. And he said, he brought up this question whenever people ask, what kind of, race would you be a part of in Lord of the Rings? And he said people want to be either a warrior or an elf or a badass wizard. And he's like, I'll be a hobbit. Like, I do nothing but eat, sleep, and drink and smoke for the rest of my life. I'm like, what do you want to do with that? Just hobbits don't want to deal with the drama. They don't want to go to war. You just kind of lounge around in the Shire. I'm like, yeah, I'll probably do that. Like, I have nothing against that.
Yeah. I have we have a friend named Sarah. I should say Sister Sarah. She's in the religious life right now. Anyway, she wrote me this amazing birthday card for my 20th birthday where she told a short story about me as an elf. And I looked at her and when I read it, it was very moving. It was very beautiful. But at the end, I remember telling her later, I was like, Sarah, it's very flattering that you think that I'm an elf, but the truth is that I'm actually a hobbit. Yeah. I guess she associates me with the elves because I love books and studying, and the elves are very wise, which is very flattering. But I was like, no, I'm just give me the good beer and the good cheese and the good bread, and I'm set for life. And the books, they like books, they keep histories, and
that's
I'm into that.
Very much true.
Hobbits know how to live life.
Yeah. So that was Lord of the Rings. I know I didn't do too much talking. I know Robyn did even less, but I think it was very enlightening. So thank you both.
Yay.
Like I said, I did enjoy this movie a lot, so I'm going to try and watch the other two movies soon and The Hobbit. So I know that's a lot of time investment.
Oh my god, yeah.
It is.
I will say, personally, I think it was worth it.
Yeah.
I think so too. There's a lot, especially once you kind of get a view of the whole movement of the books and the story, the narrative. You can see so much better all the layering that Tolkien does and how much attention to detail he has, and then subsequently Peter Jackson in creating these films that overall are very faithful, very faithful adaptations.
Except to Ben Wyatt.
And except to Ben Wyatt. And it's really beautiful, we're Catholic, so it's really, really beautiful because Tolkien was a very Catholic man, and there's a lot of Catholic imagery in there that is not blatantly obvious. If you're not Catholic, a lot of people read Lord of the Rings and never pick up on it because they don't know what they're looking for.
I didn't know until I came to college.
As a Catholic, you can see so much of what he's doing is informed by his faith, especially with certain characters who represent different things, and it's awesome. So, and it really comes together once you've seen the whole arc of the story. The end. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, well, so that's the end of our feature topic, but before we get to fanfic fights, I actually forgot to do hot takes earlier.
Okay. I think it's probably good because it gives us more time to do Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. So you don't want me to do hot takes.
Do hot takes.
Oh. I mean, because I can save for next
do
week.
Hot takes.
All right.
Do the hot take.
Okay, so first hot take is I finished watching a television program called Spartacus.
Ooh, nice.
No, not really, actually.
You don't like it?
Not really.
I mean, it's not. I personally don't think it's the best thing, but I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say it was bad. I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy parts of it, but I don't know. There was just something about it that didn't really do it for me. So Spartacus is about Spartacus. He's
not a Spartan.
No, he's not.
It sounds like it, but he's not a Spartan.
He's a Thracian warrior. He gets conscripted by the Roman army to fight with them. By a series of circumstances, he gets sold into slavery and becomes a gladiator. So that's basically all of season 1. At the end of season 1, he escapes captivity. And then... So actually, at the end of season 1, season 1 wraps up, and the actor who plays Spartacus in real life, he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. And so while they were trying to figure out, what the future of the series was going to be, they actually did a mini season, with a prequel. So about the slaves in the in his gladiator brotherhood before he gets there. So then the actor passed away, unfortunately. So then season 2 comes around with a new Spartacus. where he and his brethren are rebelling against the Roman Empire. So that's, the basic gist of it. So if you're super into, like swords and sandals genre or, ancient Rome,
Did you say
that kind
sandals?
of thing. Yeah. What?
No, you're not wrong. It's just like sandals aren't the first thing that
That's what it's called, sword and sandals
Yeah,
genre.
but I'm just like, it's not the first thing that like entices me. Like for me, when I hear sandals, I just get turned off immediately.
So I'll say my few thoughts on this series from best to worst. The best thing about this show was the actors. Everyone in this cast was like super on point with their performances. Everyone was giving it their all. I was really impressed with all of the actors. So that was really good. The story was okay. I mean, it didn't start off super strong to me, and over time I kind of got more into it. A big part of that was just the characters' names. I found it really hard to follow who was who, because all of the male characters' last names end with the "us" suffix, which just made it really hard to follow. Then the effects were not very good. Like, I just felt like the budget wasn't there, especially in season 1.
To be fair, look at the network that they're on, though.
Stars,
yeah.
I guess. I mean, it felt like it was trying to be Game of Thrones without the budget, and it just didn't work. And then my biggest gripe with this show was the slow-mo. Every single episode of this show had at least 2 to 3 minutes of total runtime in slow motion, and it was just so annoying, so overdone. Just, it got really tiresome, and I didn't like it. So yeah, that's Spartacus. Again, like, if that's your thing, then okay, great. Don't let me stop you from watching it. It didn't do it for me.
No, I mean, like I said, it's not the best programming, but for me, what saved it was the actors. I think they brought a lot of what needed to be saved for that thing.
Yeah. Oh, so there was a lot of people in here are now in the Arrowverse.
Yeah.
So the guy who replaced the first Spartacus, he played the Weather Wizard in The Flash.
What?
Mm-hmm, yeah. One of the main guys, Crixus, is actor's name is Manu Bennett, who plays
Manu Bennett.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Who played Deathstroke on Arrow, and then one of Spartacus's love interests plays Nissa Al Ghul.
Oh my God, you're right.
And then one of the bad guys from the last season is actually in season 3 of The Flash.
Oh, you know Amanda Waller is actually in this too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
She was with Crixus.
Yeah.
It was like they really just like had no job, and everyone was like, I guess we can pick up with these guys.
Yeah, and then
which I'm fine with. They're pretty good actors. I'm just like, it's like many of them moved.
And then Tamara Morrison was in the mini season.
Yeah. The guy from 300 is in this too.
Which one?
The one gets pushed into the well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's what's
Enemeus.
Enemeus.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Doctori, but Doctori is the title. Yeah, Enemeus. You know what I always imagined? I could really see him playing Martian Manhunter.
I could see that too.
Yeah, him or Lance Reddick.
Oh, and the bad guy from the first 2 seasons was also in the Fellowship of the Ring. He was one of the elves. I don't think they ever say his name.
What? Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, then just today I finished watching season 5 of House of Cards.
And?
So I've said before how much I love House of Cards, and the season was good, but it didn't really do... I didn't like it as much as previous seasons. Just, I felt there was a lot going on, and I forget if I've said before, but I'm rooting for Frank. I love Frank so much.
Hey, I've never asked you this really, but I need to ask you.
Yeah.
Can you do his accent?
Why, Brandon?
Keep going.
But why?
Okay.
See, that's the key, is the...
Yeah. Because there was a whole Vox video about why they were talking about his accent. Yeah, and like how they did it wrong, but I don't care. He sounds cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been to South Carolina, so I don't know.
Even South Carolina.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, this season...
I just feel like they dragged out the whole plot too long instead of like... Because the whole point is based on like...
Don't spoil it.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But so the premise is the election.
Yeah.
But they just like... dragged that part out too long, I feel like.
Uh-huh.
And then I don't know, just like the whole point of who's going to be president, just like really just, I don't know, dragged out. I mean, I obviously like the ending, but no, I feel you. There wasn't as much like intense drama as there just was it was more really just like political, I felt like, than drama.
Yeah. So then I watched a movie called $1 Million Baby, which is a boxing movie. It's been on my list for like forever. And,
who's in that?
So the main actress is Hilary Swank, and then the old guy.
The old guy.
Yeah.
What?
He's her trainer.
Yeah.
I'm nervous, like,
Clint Eastwood. And then also Morgan Freeman is in there. Jay Baruchel's in there for he plays a minor role. Anthony Mackie is in there.
Oh, yeah.
And what's the guy's name? Michael Pena is also in there. So yeah, just like a neat little cast. It was a good movie. It was really depressing. Like,
dude, Mike Coulter is in this.
Oh yeah, him too. Yeah. He plays Luke Cage, by the way. So yeah, the movie's good. Just like there were some highs in the movie, but they weren't like particularly high highs, and there were a lot of lows. Okay. So it was good, but it's just,
like in that depressing.
Yeah, kind of brought
like one of those movies where like you just when you watch it, it just
yeah.
Like Up.
I feel like Up had more high than lows.
Up was so depressing.
I mean, Up had a really low
beginning.
Yeah,
which I mean it's kind of
low.
I was gonna say it's very against what its title is, but then it eventually kind of goes up.
Yeah. So then right after that, because I was feeling down, I needed something to pick me up, so I chose to watch London Has Fallen.
Is that a pick-me-up?
It wasn't.
Did you watch Olympus Has Fallen?
I've seen it before.
Okay.
Okay. So London Has Fallen is on Netflix, but Olympus Has Fallen is not.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, it was weird. So this is a sequel to the movie Olympus Has Fallen, in which Gerard Butler plays a Secret Service agent. The White House is taken over by North Korean radicalists.
Oh, you got my uncle on there. No, I'm kidding.
Aaron Eckhart plays the president who's kidnapped and is threatened with death until Gerard Butler saves the day. Spoilers. And
he's with him in the 300.
Oh my gosh.
And this movie is almost exactly the same, just doesn't take place in the White House. And instead of North Koreans, it's like Middle Eastern terrorists.
Okay.
And it was just like I felt the same way about Taken 3, where they could have taken the exact same actors, given them different names, different backstories, done the same thing, and I would have been more okay with it, just because this movie had so little to do with the first movie that they didn't need to like keep it in that same universe, so to speak. Like, it just made no sense. Like,
wait, did you like Olympus Has Fallen?
I did, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it felt a lot like...
I thought the premise was like... Because I haven't seen it, but when I saw the trailer, I thought, okay, the premise is pretty interesting. Yeah. The title is good. It makes sense. Olympus Has Fallen. It's very allegorical. Yeah. And then... I mean, Gerard Butler, I haven't seen him in a lot of things. So when I saw him, I'm like, oh, he's doing his stuff again. I thought that was pretty cool. And so I didn't know how that went. And I just know London Has Fallen was crapped on. Yeah. So it's really not a terrible movie, just really pointless. So that's all I have. I don't know if anyone else wants to go over something.
I watched the newest season of Orange is the New Black. All I can say is it's the best season so far, is my opinion. It was great. It was a lot more like, I mean, there's these underlying deep things that go on in the show about like people's rights and everything, but this season was really just like, they took out, I mean, there's obviously humor in it, like, but it's more like dark humor, but it really like pushed out a lot of issues that I think that, I mean, even though I don't really know that much about the prison system, that I'm sure are actually really bad problems within the prison system, and just like showing that through a show. I don't know. It was really good. It was deep. Yeah.
So I actually have one hot take.
Okay.
And believe it or not, I don't know why I was doing this. I was watching some of Thor: The Dark World.
I love how almost all of your hot takes are. I was watching a little bit of X.
I'm sorry. Do you see my work schedule?
No.
Thursday, I worked from 11 in the morning until 10 at night. And then from 10 at night, I worked until 3 in the morning. So please, play me some more violins, please. Come on. I need more than just one of the world's smallest violins. Can you actually, at this point, like, find the audio track and put where Mr. Krabs played the violin for SpongeBob?
Okay.
You know, my friend has one small violin, and I've been meaning to get it from her and like just like pull it out at the right moment and just be like.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, you know what? I've reached about, I'm gonna say maybe an hour into this movie, and I can see where it has its faults. But I actually really like this movie. Like, by no means do I think it's like super deep and super anything, but I like it. It's very entertaining. I can see like where the story arc has changed because what people have told me from the first Thor and how he's changed, and you know, we can connect the events of what happened in the Avengers. I think like at least they paid attention to that, and yeah, they could do better with the villain. They could do better with some of the plot holes and everything, but I think it's enjoyable. Like, I'm enjoying it very much.
I mean, I've always said that my problem with the Thor: The Dark World is not that it's a bad movie.
It's just forgettable.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about it. And it wasn't good enough for me to want to watch it more times. Like, I'll watch it again before Ragnarok comes out, but that's probably it.
See, I don't think, for me, I'm a really special case because I like to rewatch things to pick up things I didn't see before or to reappreciate things again. And that's not saying that everybody can do that because that's crazy. Like, you shouldn't have to do that, but that's just me. I'd like to rewatch things and value for what they did. And like I said, it could be better and it could have been better, but I really enjoy the product that I have. I still think basically Asgard is the land of Ooh, just in Marvel terms.
Okay.
So technically, if you want to make it, Thor is Finn the Human. If you really want to, you know, get down into it.
Okay. Kenzie?
I haven't had a whole lot of time. I did watch a movie, which is going to be a slight departure from what we normally talk about on this, or y'all normally talk about on this podcast. But it was recommended to me to watch Midnight in Paris, which is a rom-com. But it's very interesting. I like the premise. I didn't like how it was done. It's Owen Wilson, Rachel McAdams. Owen Wilson is a screenplay writer, wanting to be a novelist, dating Rachel McAdams, or engaged to Rachel McAdams, and she's kind of this prissy person, kind of obsessed with herself. They're in Paris, and he's obsessed with like the idea of a 1920s Paris, and he thinks it's kind of like the ideal setting. So in this kind of weird, trippy time travel thing, he's like on this specific street corner at midnight, when the clock strikes midnight, and he gets transported into 1920s Paris. And so he ends up meeting all of his like literary heroes. So the F. Scott Fitzgerald and his wife, and then, you know, all of these other like artists and authors of the time, and he just thinks it's amazing. And he like shows them his manuscript for his novel that he's working on, and he just has this very romantic idea of what Paris in the 20s would be like. So it was a really interesting concept. I don't think it was done very well. I'm not a huge Owen Wilson person.
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
It also just didn't seem like the right role for Owen Wilson, because he's so much more of a comedic actor, and it was, I don't even know if you could call it a romantic comedy, actually. I guess that's probably what its title would be, but it was a little bit more serious, even though he was like having fun and figuring out life and stuff. I don't know.
More rom, less com.
More rom, less com. It was okay.
So you're not going to see Cars 3 then?
I mean, Cars is fine. I just don't understand why we need a third one.
I might actually see that this week then.
Is it already out?
Yeah, came out yesterday.
Gosh.
I'm planning to like just binge watch a bunch of movies in the theater, so I might do that pretty soon.
We went to go see Wonder Woman.
Oh, yeah.
Remember
how was that?
We saw Wonder Woman a week ago. Last Saturday.
Forgot about that.
Today's Saturday. We saw it last Saturday.
Technically, it's still Saturday.
Technically. It was very good. I really enjoyed it. I thought Gal Gadot was a wonderful Superwoman. I think she pulled it off really well. Chris Pine was good, but he didn't overshadow her. I think that was a lot of like women's concerns, that, you know, Chris Pine was going to be like the man that overshadows her, but she's holds her own. She's awesome. Mm-hmm. The whole beginning part was really good with the Amazons, and I thought it was really well done.
Does she know that Claire's in there too?
Do I what now?
Do you know that Claire's in the movie?
Claire
Underwood.
Oh yeah, I did know that.
Okay.
Now I knew that. I recognized her right away.
Named Robyn Wright, who, by the way, her first starring role was in The Princess Bride, which is my favorite movie of all time, where she plays Buttercup. Anyway, Wonder Woman was great. The action sequences were good. They were interesting. I thought the plot was really good, and definitely a different departure. I mean, obviously it's interesting because they got all of this like superhero wrapped up with mythology, and so this was definitely pulling on Greek mythology. So it was a little bit more familiar than I think like Thor, which is Norse mythology. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was well done. Interesting, pulling on elements of the First World War and getting Wonder Woman's background story. So I enjoyed it. But I also don't know a whole lot about the comics. But I thought it was cool. So, yeah.
Right on. All right, so let's hurry up and get out of here, because
we have to soon.
Yeah. So that means it's time for the Kevin segment, aka fanfic fights. So originally, when I thought it was just going to be Brandon and me, I decided that we were going to do one that I'd been holding on to for a long time, of Albus Dumbledore versus Gandalf.
Oh my god.
Does he have a last name?
No.
Gandalf the Grey. That's his title. And then he's Gandalf the White.
But obviously there's 4 of us. So in addition to them, we're going to have Merlin, the wizard, and Mr. Gold from Once Upon a Time. So, ladies, figure out who's going to pick first.
I guess, can I pick? Because I only really know anything about Dumbledore. That's the only one I know anything about.
See, I could do Mr. Gold. I don't know if I want to, though. But then I kind of want Brandon to do Gandalf.
You can do Gandalf. Gandalf.
I'm guessing you want Merlin.
I guess. Sure.
Okay. I mean, you can
No, I mean, I don't know anything about Mr. Gold, so that's why.
Okay.
I really see this blowing up in our faces right now.
Well, it's a good thing we're all tired.
Let's just do it.
Okay. All right.
I'll start. Okay, cool. You just looked at me, so let's do it. Okay, Gandalf the Grey. Part of the Council of Wizards. He is wonderful. I'm going to throw in some spoilers here, so don't be afraid. So, Gandalf is known by many names, Mithrandir, and known by different people in different capacities. You know, men of Gondor and Rohan know him as kind of like the bearer of bad news.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, he's like obsessed with lore and books and research, as we talked about earlier. And kind of gathering up all the intel. And to the hobbits, he's kind of the bearer of fireworks and fun. And he's got really bomb clouds that he can make with his tobacco pipe. You
know what's funny? Real quick interjection. So I remember I was reading an article of an interview that Sir Ian McKellen did. And he said, between the two of Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White, which one would you rather prefer? And he says that even though they're both fun, he said he had more fun doing Gandalf the Grey. He's much more chill. It's like he said like you expect him more to just like pull out like some like pipes and put some weed in it and he smoke and like I remember it was like, you mean weeds, like tobacco weeds or like weeds? And it's like, yeah, weeds. He didn't like really specify.
It's so funny. Yeah. So thank you for leading into that. So Gandalf, as we discussed earlier, falls into the mines of Moria fighting the Balrog. And then he comes back later. He's basically resurrected. It's kind of like a trippy explanation of what happens to him, but essentially he dies and he comes back to life as Gandalf the White. And everyone's
just like Jesus.
Yeah, no, he's one of 3 Christ figures in The Lord of the Rings, in addition to Aragorn and Frodo, who all bear different images of Jesus Christ as priest, prophet, and king. What up?
And Aslan.
Okay, that's a different story. But yes. So, Gandalf, when he comes back as Gandalf the White, it's very confusing because Saruman was the White. But now Gandalf is the White. He is the head of the Council of Wizards. And he is totally bomb. And he can do all kinds of things, like defeat Saruman. He defeats Saruman, but, he also... Gandalf has the amazing power of coaxing people into becoming who they really are and encouraging people at the right time. So not only is he super powerful, this guy fought like a Balrog, which is, like I said earlier, crazy, terrifying demon of fire and shadow. He has traveled all over Middle-earth. He knows all about the lore of all of the different peoples. So he knows different people's strengths and weaknesses, and he can fight based on knowing those things. He can fight the Nazgul, and, he's a rad dude. But he's very, very, very powerful, in addition to his wisdom. So with his knowledge and his power combined, he can defeat Mr. Gold and Dumbledore and Merlin. The end.
I guess I'll go, since I don't know that much. Dumbledore, head wizard, or something like that. He's in charge of Hogwarts. Yeah.
You're looking at 3, huge Harry Potter nerds.
No. What?
Just sit down. Sit. Okay. You gonna flick her forehead or something?
Yeah. He's important. He's a wizard. He's got awesome powers. He puts his memories into this pawn thing. He does. He takes it out with the wand. He's like, my memories in
pawn thing.
That's all I got. And now Brandon is taking out his wand and swishing it at me. I think that's against our religion.
Oh my gosh.
Well, this is very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I was kidding. This is all little metal. That'd be so hard to break. Okay, go Brandon.
Hey, give me my wand back.
Go Brandon, I got nothing.
Except my wand. So, Merlin, the wizard. Now, I don't know too much about Merlin, so that's why I'm really going to say this right now that I think this is going to blow up in our faces, but whatever, I'm going to do my best. So, the only accounts of Merlin that I know is that he is very prominent in the Arthurian legends, where he is the principal advisor. He serves a similar role to Gandalf. That's how he does in The Lord of the Rings. He's the advisor, the magician, the guy that King Arthur goes to, and all the other knights of the Round Table they go to in case they ever need advice or help with magical things. He's kind of like the Q of James Bond, but in a more magical aspect. So they always tell him, "Oh, you gotta do this. You gotta go on this quest. You gotta do this." And I like him because he is extremely powerful, but he never just uses his power straight up to solve the problem. He'll be like, I can help you this much, but you need to solve it by yourselves. Of course, sometimes it turns out into people dying as a result, but there's a more moral implication behind the actions behind it. So I guess in the overall sense, it's a good thing. He rivals that of the sorceress Morgan Le Fay, so whenever magical threats come against the kingdom of Camelot, he's there to defend them, usually. And, he has connections to a bunch of magical beasts. I know BBC One, they did a whole series about Merlin and how he ends up becoming the wizard that we know him as.
I've actually seen some of that.
Oh, really?
Because my mama watched it in Kentucky. I watched it when I was there. I just remember that. Anyway.
Why did you say it like that?
I don't know.
Or Kentucky is showing.
Yeah.
Man, I think I need to see you talk with them more, actually.
No, I'm good. Okay, anyway.
And, so I feel like in the fight between all of these, Merlin, even though I don't know too much about it, I think he really does hold his own because, one, he's one of the classical wizards of all time, like the OG WZ. And...
Wow. Wow.
Like, he's already, like, decked out with, like, the purple robe, the long beard and everything, the pointy hat. Oh, y'all.
We're just
imposters.
fakers.
And if anything, I don't think they would all fight each other. I don't think they would just, like, sit around and talk scholarly stuff and pass around the pipe of Gandalf and stuff. So if anything, nobody, like, wins or loses. I don't know. Nobody loses. Everybody wins.
Everyone's a winner.
But I still think, you know, Merlin's a pretty formidable foe.
Well, despite your contention that everyone's a winner, I feel like I still have to go. So, Mr. Gold definitely wins this fight because in the Once Upon a Time world, magic can do anything. And even though that's like my main complaint about the show, kind of works in my favor here because, you know, that's who I got stuck with. So, yeah, like I said, like, anytime there's a rule that says like, oh, this is impossible, well, there's some BS workaround with it because of magic. And no one is more skilled at magic than Mr. Gold. You know,
Also known as.
the Dark One.
Also known as.
Rumpelstiltskin. So, as the Dark One, he has, you know, access to all sorts of dark magic. And, you know, he's shady and underhanded and manipulative. And he has, you know, across many lifetimes, he's accumulated various powerful magical objects that he can use to his advantage in this battle that can do, like, anything. And so basically he just wins because he has, like, all the tools at his disposal to overcome any obstacles that any of his opponents may throw at him.
May I say something? Rebuttal. Here's the thing about Mr. Gold is that he has some serious weak spots. So if you were to get a hold of Belle or his son or his grandson, I mean, it might encourage him to, like, fight harder, but he would definitely be at a weak point and be erratic and emotional. Whereas, you know, Gandalf, he has a great affection for a number of different people, but nobody like that who he, like, you never, like, get a love interest for Gandalf. Like, he can see beyond, like, the death of one person. Even if it's really, it hurts him, but that's not enough to be, like, a weak spot for him.
You must not be caught up on Once Upon a Time.
I'm not, but I'm just saying, in the past, in the earlier seasons, he definitely has weak spots.
Well,
I'm sorry I'm not caught up.
I'm not
saying
saying anything. I'm not saying anything.
I mean, I do think it's kind of weird that, like, you're having a face-off against somebody who took on two of the most powerful dark wizards of all time.
Yeah, but not Mr. Gold.
And then also one who fought multiple dark forces and demons.
Yeah, well, in the first movie, I don't know about the other movies, but in the first movie, all Gandalf does is, like, flick his staff around and make Saruman, like, fly across the room a little bit.
That's because it's all mind power. I mean, when you've got two powerful wizards like that, a lot of their fighting wasn't like, let me cast a spell on you. It's like the work of their minds, like the innermost part of them.
Force lightning to come out to see which one had.
No, like in.
I feel like you'll be
and
more
they're like
satisfied.
throwing each other around or think. It's scary, man.
No, like in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, like the final battle between Dumbledore and Voldemort, like that was a really cool battle, even though that movie is garbage.
In J.K. Rowling's...
Did you say? What did you just say?
That movie's garbage.
Oh.
J.K. Rowling's world, when you use a wand, like, stuff shoots out of it, so you physically see the magic happening. Whereas Tolkien didn't. I mean,
that's why Gandalf uses.
But, like,
it doesn't.
But most of the time, like, magic doesn't show itself as directly.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, my guy lasted around for thousands of years.
So you heard our arguments, but we want to know what you think. So you know the drill. Send us an email to abcpodcast92@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought about this fanfic fight, a previous fanfic fight, one of our top fives. Tell us what you thought about The Lord of the Rings, or other Tolkien media. Just shoot us an email because we want to hear from you. But that is it for this episode. I know things were a little bit out of order. Condensed in some areas, elongated in other areas. I thought it was a good show. I had fun. So you can follow me on Twitter at AtariAlex. You can go to my bio and look there and find Brandon's username in the description. Not description, my bio. While you're there, you can also find links to our YouTube and iTunes pages and subscribe to both so that you never miss an episode. We'd really appreciate that. And we'd also appreciate it if you could leave us a comment or a review, because we want to know how we can do better. You can also follow Robyn on Twitter by going to my timeline, scroll down, look for a picture of a cat or something involving marriage, and look at who's tagged in said tweet, and that would be her. Kenzie does not
want to be found on the internet.
Yes. And that's it. So, thank you all very much for listening, and we will catch you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.